You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent and Austen Show.
Hey, look at that lineup here on a Wednesday. I like that. I get excited about graphics. Danielle does a great job with them and whip this one up. And this is, you'll see something like this if you go to actionsportsjacks.com soon. I'm still kind of figuring that out, the best way to display it. But, yeah, I like Wednesdays here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. We've got a lot of original programming. I did just learn that Scrap House we won't have tonight because Casey's out of town. Maybe those guys should just meet up out west. I mean, Austin's in Vegas and Casey's like in Arizona getting a baseball signed at spring training. So there's that. But usually Scrap House on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Part of the lineup, and part of the lineup is us. 10 to 1, the Brent and Austen Show here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Easiest way to find this, by the way, now, and you can watch everything on here, all different types of things. Pick your poison at actionsportsjacks.com. We'll also have another article up from Daniel Griffiths today there, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Good morning, everybody in the chat already. Good morning to Austen Lane. Oh, you got outside out there in Vegas. It is early out there in Vegas. Would you just go for a jog?
Just kind of a little light jog in, kind of wake up a little bit, get acclimated to the Vegas time and the Vegas weather. But yeah, the sun's coming up, man. It's going to be a beautiful day. Surprisingly, a little cooler than I thought it was going to be. It's like probably 62 degrees right now, so not too shabby.
Yeah,
I'm not mad at that, Brent.
No, that's good. Are you stay? What's your deal here? You staying in an Airbnb again? You got a hotel this time? Or what do you got?
So, yep. So for this week, I'll be staying. We talked about it before when I was in Vegas. It's kind of like the fighter house. There's a bunch of fighters that are staying here from all over the country. So I'm at the fighter house this week, and then next week I'll go to the UFC hotel, and then that'll get us acclimated, for fight week and everything like that.
All right. When you say like you're in the fighter house, it's like, man, you guys better not knock some back. There could be a melee there. Somebody call the cops out there in Vegas if something goes down. There could be a little Royal Rumble or one of these. Well, I keep seeing these things on social media. I sent one to you. It was like 10 UFC fights going on at one time in Royal Rumble style. Then I saw something in Romania where there's like something different. I didn't really click on it because I'm afraid to click on anything. But there's some wild scenes around the country. Maybe you guys could have one of those in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it's the crazy thing about the backyard here, Brett, is it's the desert, right? So there's not a lot of grass. So if you can kind of see around here, it's nothing but rocks here if you can kind of see it. So I'm not sure in terms of fighting how great that's going to be, especially if you try to go for a takedown. But yeah, sorry. And there we go. And now we're back. But I'm not sure how great this backyard is conducive to fighting. But man, we can find out.
Yeah, well, do not take the fighter house. Yeah, that probably would be a bad idea for somebody.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, Brent Martineau, Austen Lane. Austen Lane has his fight against Mario Pinto next Saturday, so that's March 1st, not this week, next Saturday, and getting closer and closer after what's been a long fight camp from South Florida now to Las Vegas, getting the final stages in for that, which is pretty cool. We're waiting for that to happen. Hey, the Jaguars, we're waiting for them to announce a GM, and I think Nathan said, "Good morning, wonderful people. Happy Ian Cunningham interview day." People are excited about Ian Cunningham. I just can't get over how excited people can be about a person as a GM, but I love you for it. Good for you. So we'll talk a little bit about, again, I've kind of GM'd out, to be honest with you, Austen. Just tell me when it happens, and I think by the end of the weekend we'll know. But we did bring up something yesterday. We like to do this new fly-on-the-wall thing, and I think since this whole deal with coaches and GMs have dragged out so long, we've had plenty of chances to be a fly on the wall. And a little bit later on the show, we'll say, hey, what would you ask the Jags about this setup, this situation, if you were one of these candidates? Be like, do I really want this job? And hey, it's the only job out there for a GM. So, it's not like you're going to some other opportunity. And with that, Austen, does that mean the Jags have leverage here? I mean, do the Jags have some leverage that they didn't have in the coaching search, like with a Cohen or maybe somebody else like a Ben Johnson? Do they now have leverage? Now, these guys have teams. They can always go back. But this is, you don't know how many times you're going to get opportunities to be a GM. So how much leverage do you think the Jags have in these discussions with their potential GM?
I think there's a lot of leverage, Brent, just because, just like you said, how many of these jobs open up every single year? You know, like I think we talk about like the coaching carousel, right? Like Vrabel kind of knew what he was doing, right? He's like, yeah, okay, maybe I won't take a coordinator job. I'll just sit out a year, and then the next year it'll come around again, and then I'll be in high demand. And then that's kind of like how the coaches work. GMs, it's different, right? So I feel like if you have an opportunity, you at least have to entertain said opportunity because, yeah, to echo your point, you may not get another opportunity, like another chance. And I wonder, Brent, like obviously with coaches every single year, you get about like what, maybe 4 or 5 at least new spots opening up, it seems like. At least that's what it's felt like the past couple of years. How many GM spots get opened up a year?
Yeah, I don't. It's a good call. On average, I don't know, but far less. To your point, that's what you're getting at. And this year correct. we had the Raiders and the Jets. I think are the only two, and and then this one came about late. So I would suspect that you maybe get a few each year. So you've got all these candidates. They interviewed 10. Obviously, a lot of guys that would like to be a GM in the league. And now you have these down to 5. And while they're in good situations, you could certainly make the case. Gladstone, sure, stay with the Rams. He's got plenty of time. He'll get another opportunity. Probably right. Cunningham, maybe he does get another opportunity. Probably right. But you just don't know. And if things don't work out with Ben Johnson in Chicago, then do those opportunities start fading away? Where are the Rams? Could they get rid of Stafford and everything else? Are you not as hot a candidate after this year? I got a feeling he still will be, but you might not be. So there are all those things. The same thing we said about Liam Cohen. I mean, listen, remember the day Liam Cohen said, I'm going back to Tampa? I said, I think he made a mistake. And I just don't think you get many of these kind of opportunities very often to do it. And I'll also add this, Austin. I think this is a pretty damn good gig to be set up for as the GM of the Jags. Now, you have got to navigate how the power structure is with Liam Cohen and Tony Baselli, and you've got to be able to get along and all those things. So if you're compatible in any way, let's just check that box and say, hey, that's why you're still in the game and interested. You're okay with that. Well, this is a good situation. I mean, the Jags do have good enough players to build around where you don't have to reset the roster. So you can go in and right away make an impact and win. You have your franchise quarterback. Again, you're not in this situation if you don't believe in Trevor Lawrence right now. You know the organization does. And then you have an owner that really is good. You're not going to Dallas to be the GM or the assistant GM or the whatever that would even be called. You're not going to some of these other places. I'm not telling you that Shad Khan has proven to be the greatest owner win-loss record in the league. We know that hasn't been the case. But from a job standpoint, this has always been a position where people like to be because they get autonomy. The owner's not in the building all the time. He's not in their business all the time. He trusts them to do the job. You got to report back. So I think these are all good reasons to love this job as the Jacksonville Jaguars GM. And the biggest one was what I said earlier. The roster can win right now in the AFC South. And I know, here's the one thing. The coach said, oh, we don't care about the AFC South. I don't believe it all the time, but anyway, coach said that. Mike Baalke said it on the show.
I don't know how much you want. I don't know how much more you want to hear, Brent. If you had a head coach telling you that, I mean, you might as well buy into it now.
I guess, but I think I get where they're coming from. I think the GM though certainly can see that. And by the way, you play that too. Like that's a place that you can. Like I think you care less about that little, hey, I don't care who's in my way. No, I think you do care who's in your way. Like as a GM, I think you can see the bigger picture of the division a little bit better as the GM, or you care more about that. I guess you take a little bit more in that job, a 30,000-foot view at things. But again, regardless of how they feel about it, the bottom line is it's a good job.
No, for sure. But let me go and ask you this, Brent. Like when we think of an NFL head coach, what do we tie it to the most? We tie it to wins and losses. Do we tie that to the GM as well? I mean, yeah, obviously it's important. It's a performance-based business, but I almost feel like we tie like the quarterback, we tie the draft, we tie free agency more to the GM than we actually do wins and losses.
I think you're right. I don't think we I don't think we really tag wins and losses overall. Now we might. I don't know Howie Roseman's record as a GM. It seems pretty good, right? And now I know he's got a Super Bowl champ, and he's been to another and all that stuff, right? But I think you're right. I think we grade the drafts and free agency, and we grade the overall feel of it. Like if you're a consistent winner, Baltimore, great example. Would they have? Well, I guess they have. Pittsburgh and Baltimore have hung on to their coaches for a long time, despite not winning a Super Bowl. But they hang on to their coaches. They got a good program. They usually make the playoffs. They're usually in the dance. But they've also been under fire at times, especially Tomlin, right? Tomlin's been under fire up there because of the win-loss record. I don't think you hear the GM under fire because of the win-loss record. And I think actually more blame in Pittsburgh goes on the GMs because of the roster construction. Are you giving him enough to work with? Are you finding the right quarterback to replace Ben Roethlisberger? So to your point, I think that's what you do get graded on more than the W's and L's.
And once again, I guess since we're in Vegas, Brent, I am going to double down right now, and I'm going to tell you, like, I don't think it really matters in terms of like the division that you play in the GM, because you got to look at it like this. If you're going to go to a team like the Titans, a team like the Raiders, where they obviously play in a competitive division, they play, probably at the bottom of the division, and year in and year out, you're probably going to be trying to claw to even get a spot. But at the same time, if you find yourselves like you're in the bottom of that division, well, what happens? You get higher draft picks. You probably have more salary cap, so it's more things to work with. And if you're a GM, I mean, like, yeah, wins and losses are important, but if I'm also a GM, I'm trying to get high draft picks right away. I'm trying to get money to work with so I can get guys in free agency. I'm trying to find more draft capital. So I think it goes hand in hand. Like, yeah, it'd be nice if, like, you could go to a team if you're a GM where it's like the Eagles or the Packers, where it's like, yeah, I mean, they're already winning. They're already top of the division. But that's not how it works. Usually, if you're going to be a GM, you're going to a team that probably obviously needs some help and they need some restructure. Ironically, you probably get a lot more resources to work with, because when you go to those teams, you'll have the draft picks, you'll have the draft capital, and you'll probably have more money to work with. And also, by the way, and then this is a little caveat too, if you're over 35 years old and trying to be a GM, you might want to go on LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter, because I don't think that job's going to be for you. They seem to be going in a very, very young direction right now. And if you got gray hair or anything, you might want to get into some other gig, because I feel like the GMs are going way young these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you're over 50 years old, being a GM in the league is not.
Can you imagine, like, if the Jags hired like a 70-year-old GM and he comes with a cane out there and stuff, man, that'd be insane.
Well, even look what the Raiders did, right? The Raiders got super old, if you will, in their staff and everything else. Mm-hmm. And they might even do that with their quarterback if the Aaron Rodgers stuff comes to fruition, or Russell Wilson. Like, they're older, and they still went. Spytek's not like a 30-year-old guy, but he's also not 60. So like, and that was an organization that looked like they were trying to bring in wisdom and experience. And Spytek does have experience, but not to that degree, to your point. Delphonic brings up a good one here. And I don't, this will be interesting to see with Cohen saying players over plays, which is obviously like, that's going to be on the wall, right? Like, we should put it on the top of our screen, like players over plays. The GM will be tied to wins and losses somewhat. I think that's pretty good statement. I get what you're saying there. I still would say I'm not sure that's true, though, because take the Indianapolis situation with Ballard. Like, Ballard is wild to me, right? Ballard was like this guy that everybody's like, oh, great job, he's doing a great job. And it looked like they'd acquired pretty good talent. They had kind of had a bunch of money to spend in free agency, the draft, like they had balanced it all. But they really couldn't. They swung and missed at quarterback. Like, he has swung and missed now at a lot of different quarterbacks. But I would say they do have good players. Like, there are a lot of good players on that roster for Indianapolis. There obviously aren't enough to get them a division title in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, Indianapolis does not have a division title, despite the same GM pretty much the whole time. Obviously, a couple renditions of coaches, a lot of renditions of quarterbacks, but a roster that's had good players like Jonathan Taylor, like DeForest Buckner, like those kind of guys, like Nelson, the right guard, one of the best in the game. So Like, that guy's delivered some good players, but he still hasn't been able to figure out the formula, the recipe. Like, sooner or later, I can't believe that dude still has a job. I really can't. Like, he cannot figure it out. And you usually don't get this many runs at the quarterback, Austen, like Ballard is getting. But I do think there's something to be said for the puzzle pieces, how it fits together and how a team, like we just did this last year with Jacksonville. We thought on paper it looked good going into last year. We also thought Trent Baalke, hey, there's a lot of good talent on this team. We also get what you're doing. You guys couldn't get across the finish line. You're going to go get Armstead and Darby and these guys that have been there before to help you pull across in December and January. I get it. I thought it was logical. Still couldn't make it work. They still don't have the right mix of players to do better than 4 wins last year. So it's a hard thing to do. And that's why I don't think it's judged almost year by year, but almost on like a 3 or 4 year sample for a GM to see how did you create this mix? What does the recipe look like? What are the ingredients of this thing? And then how are the results? And I think Indianapolis and really Jacksonville have been 2 wild spots the last few years to say, hey, there are a lot of good things the GM's doing, but it's not getting the results that we need. Is that the player's fault? Is that the coach's fault? Or really is that the ingredients to the recipe that aren't correct?
No, I mean, it's a great call. And I think Indianapolis is a classic example of this because, yes, they have drafted great players, but you haven't had the quarterback situation filled out yet. And that's the most important part. And I feel like, if you're a GM and you have the opportunity to go out there and get a franchise quarterback because one's not already there and you miss, I feel like that's your job right there. And I feel like that should have been the job in Indianapolis, right? Because, and listen, maybe AR bounces back and maybe he becomes the second reincarnation of Lamar Jackson. I don't think so at this moment, but who knows? The point is right now, you don't think so. Right now, he was replaced by Joe Flacco. Right now, he was a backup. So when you put that on your resume, it is surprising that I feel like Ballard still has a job there in Indianapolis. I always talk about Dorsey in Kansas City, guy that drafted Patrick Mahomes. And now I get it. Yeah, it was more of Andy Reid because he fell in love with him, but still, like someone had to pull the trigger, someone had to trade up, and that was Dorsey. So Dorsey trades up, gets Patrick Mahomes, arguably one of the GOATs right now in the NFL. Great. What happens? Well, Dorsey gets let go. Maybe there was some inner working, some rumblings. Didn't work out with Andy Reid. Fine. He goes to Cleveland. He drafts Baker Mayfield. And I think that was the same draft. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they have Lamar Jackson in that draft? Wasn't Josh Allen in that draft as well?
Was that the same draft?
I think. Was that the Baker draft?
Might have been.
It might have been.
I think you're right. I don't know about Baker. I think it was Josh Allen. I know. We'll look it up. We'll look it up.
We'll look it up. But my point, though, is that he went above and beyond to try to get Baker Mayfield. Right?
Yeah, he did.
That was his guy. And, in Cleveland, it didn't really work that well. And all of a sudden, Dorsey, even though he had the resume of Patrick Mahomes, now Cleveland lets him go. And Dorsey's kind of like, the special analyst, assistant, whatever you want to call him. But it goes to show you're always going to be tied to your quarterback. And even if you get a big resume with Patrick Mahomes, all you got to do is draft Baker Mayfield and they're going to hate you again. And let's be honest, it wasn't like Baker Mayfield was really a bad draft pick. He just needed the right situation because he's shining now in Tampa Bay. But at the same time, once again, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in a draft where you had Josh Allen, a draft where you might have had Lamar Jackson, well, then that's grounds for dismissal because Baker Mayfield is a little below those guys.
Yeah, Nathan's saying Mahomes the year before. Yeah, we know that. Dorsey was part of that, though. He was part of the bringing in Mahomes, and that goes on your lifetime guarantee, by the way. Like if you're Dorsey, but remember we saw Dorsey at the Senior Bowl, and you said hello to him and kind of reconnected in like 2019 or something like that. And I remember having this conversation about Dorsey about how his quarterback run had been pretty good overall in his career. Right. And then we were kind of wondering about the Mayfield one at the time and how would it work out. But I think there's some credence to, hey, Mayfield had the skill set to be there. They didn't set it all up around him. But I think you're right. They specifically brought him in to advise and help because of his knowledge and what he had done in the past with quarterbacks like Mahomes. But there are other ones that he had done a pretty good job with because he had been with Kansas City for a while, right? And I think even getting Alex Smith over to Kansas City, now that wasn't a draft, but even getting him over there and getting the best play out of him was part of the equation too. So, yeah, listen, if you can get the quarterback right, you've got probably a lifetime guarantee and they'll figure everything else out, right? And usually everything works pretty well if you've got the quarterback absolutely right, like it's happened in Kansas City. One other thing I'll just say here before we take our first time out, which, by the way, great comment, Luke. I can have all the stuff to make a great chicken soup. But if I don't know how to cook, it tastes like poop. Can we put that one? Can we put that one somewhere? Can that be on the quote board? Do we have a quote board?
Handy, can you quick check out too, man, who was drafted during that Baker Mayfield year, just so I can see who
Hamby. I thought Hamby was on that like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
so we obviously got slow
answer by now.
We already got slow reaction time Hamby this morning. That's obvious. After that I thought he would just like rifle that off and jump on in the show. But he's sleeping. He probably got up super early. Hey, so are you? It's up early out there as well. He just got hit by a right hook though, and he didn't even know it was coming.
It was Baker, Saquon, Sam Darnold was the top 3. Josh Allen was 7. Rosen was 10.
So was that, and that was that 18 would have been Lamar Jackson's draft too?
Was Lamar Jackson as well?
Yes, he was 32. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you were right. Yeah, that was so. Why, that's a crazy draft, right? I mean, you get Allen and Lamar, who are MVP perennial candidates, and you get this like resurgence all of a sudden this year of Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. That's like, wait a minute, let's go back and look at that draft again where those guys were bust. Now, they're not MVP guys, although Baker, he had MVP kind of numbers this year that you could have put him in the conversation. That's just a pretty wild draft.
But yeah, so I guess that's trying to be my point, though, is the fact that, like, listen, you drafted Baker Mayfield, you took a chance on him, like that was your guy. And in retrospect now, maybe it wasn't a bad draft pick, but when you're going against Lamar Jackson, when you're going against Josh Allen, like, that's grounds for dismissal because you see what they're doing for their teams. And obviously in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield's not there anymore.
Yeah. One comment on here in Jacksonville. And this is why I think it goes more than player acquisition. Because we didn't love, or I say not we, because it's not necessarily me as much as everybody else, just did not love the idea of Baalke being here. We got it in the comments already. It's like, I don't care who gets a job as long as it's not Baalke. I mean, there was just this thing about Baalke, like nonstop. But the bottom line is, and I know they did not deliver as a team. I get it. But this time last year, really about a month later, once we got through March and especially through the draft, we are talking about this football team as being a very good football team on paper. It looked like it was a very well-assembled team. Now, that's comparative to Jacksonville, right? That's the comp, is where you've been in Jacksonville, what the teams have looked like. But it was a good, it was in our, I still will say this, I've been here 17 years, coming up on March 1st, when you get a win in Vegas after beating Mario Pinto. I'll celebrate my anniversary here, 17 years.
Let's go.
I do think it's one of the best teams that I've seen in Jacksonville on paper, assembled. Like, I really do. Now, do I say the best? I'm not saying that, but I do think it's one of the best. Like, I know where Shad was coming from with that and buying into that. And it just failed so miserably. And maybe we overshot that. Maybe even Baalke overshot that. Now you go back and Baalke missed on things like the free agency, like the Armstead plan, like other things. Absolutely. But it just shows you there's more to it. And his problem was all the things that I complained about for the last year. Relationships and transparency and messaging and all these other things that go into the job. It's not just a single deal job as a GM in a building. Now, Tony Baselli will help that out with the new guy coming in. He'll alleviate some of those things that go into it. But it's just a wild thing with Baalke because I think you can add up that he made a lot of good moves around here too, Austen, and is still out of a job. Sure. Maybe even put together a better roster going into 2024 than a guy like Ballard, who's still got a job.
Yeah. Listen, it's crazy how you're still on the Trent Baalke payroll. I thought when he was I thought when he was, relieved of his duties, we would move on with our lives, and you would seek money elsewhere. But apparently, it's still live. It's still hot. The transactions are still coming in. If you catch my drift, I'll say this about Trent Baalke. Yeah, like on paper last year, were we pretty adamant that the Jaguars would be pretty good? Absolutely, right. And a lot of that had to do with Trent Baalke. But this will always be my thing about him. I can't give him credit for Trevor Lawrence because, well, you weren't going to pick Zach Wilson, even though, what was it, Phil Simms or Chris Sims? One of the Sims was like, oh, yeah, Zach Wilson's the better quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, no,
They fell into that
clickbait. You should have lost your job for saying that, but we still have to deal with them. But so he fell into that one. With Trayvon Walker and everything, okay, it was a little outside the box. Did it work out in Jacksonville? It sure did. But it's always going to be the debate. Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, right? So I think there, like, we give him a little ground, but you can make an argument and say, well, what would Aiden Hutchinson do right now? So you have that one. I think when you look at a guy like Tyson Campbell, we can sit here and say, yeah, when he's 100% healthy, dude's a menace. But can he be healthy? Can he truly be a pillar of this team? And then when you look at free agent, or not free agency, but you look at like the contract with Trevor, you look at the contracts with Josh Hines-Allen, you look at the contract with Tyson Campbell. And now I guess Walker Little too, but obviously it's not to that level of those pillars that I just mentioned. And you go, all right, was it worth it? Should you have paid them? And like, yeah, Josh Hines-Allen, I get it because you're making that much money. Trevor Lawrence, that's your franchise quarterback. And then we talk about Tyson Campbell, where we probably got to see a little more to earn that money, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that I feel like Trent Baalke kind of fell into some things. Now, yeah, he had some great moves as well, especially in free agency. It seems like I think bringing Mitch Morrison was a great idea. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. In the draft, you can't fault him for that, especially trading back and then still getting your guy, arguably the best wide receiver of that rookie class. Yeah, that's a great move as well. But what I look for in a GM, Brent, I say this all the time: the first rounders got to be layups, especially when you're picking high. And I think some of the second rounders, sometimes they have to be layups in terms of where you do for your draft needs. What sets you apart from a great GM is what you do in those third, fourth, and fifth rounds, right? It's the Puka Nakuas. It's the guys that, you have to do some deep diving to say, hey, you know what? Maybe he's got some cons and everything that we're not feeling, but he works for our team. And that's what the Rams did with Puka. That's what the Rams did with a lot of players, I feel like, late in the draft class. So that's where I'm always going to fault Trent Baalke, where it was like, yeah, you hit on the layups, you hit on the tee and everything. But when it came down to it, and we're talking those later round picks that can help contribute, what have you done there? And unfortunately, it wasn't a lot. I'm sorry, Brent.
No, it's okay. The check's already cashed. But I think I forgot the taxes might get me on the Venmo. I got to be careful of that.
Right. But, take it easy now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think it's a fair point. And I think it's an interesting point here in Jacksonville, because usually we've said, the Jags took this guy instead of this guy. And this guy that the Jags took ended up being a bust or hardly did anything. And this guy ends up being an all-pro. We're not really saying that. I think that's where like the Walker and Hutchinson thing is pretty fascinating, because Trayvon Walker's not a bad player. He's not. He's a good player. The Lions would have picked him number 2, or somebody else would have picked him number 3 or whatever. He's a good player. But we're asking, is he as good as the next guy? What's interesting about like Ian Cunningham in today or for an interview and it looked like a favorite for this job is that Chicago's asking themselves the same thing right now. Caleb Williams was a Trevor Lawrence no-brainer at number 1 for them, right?
Yes.
Well, should they have taken Jaden Daniels? Is he going to be better? Like, are you asking that now? Like, it's not that Caleb's bad, but maybe Jaden Daniels would be better, right? So you're already starting to ask those kind of things in Chicago. So I think there are levels of this where it's like, wow, to your point, Austen, you better not miss and be like, the guy that picked after you is an all-pro and Hall of Famer, which we've seen before here in Jacksonville. So, like, I don't feel like Baalke missed, but again, even some of his stuff is relative to your point. Like, it's not as bad as it's been, but it's not as good as it could have been. And that's where the Jags still are in a weird spot. Now, the handling, I think, of the draft the last 2 years in the first round have been pretty impressive by Baalke. I think what they did to get Anton Harrison, how they figured that out. Now, we'll see about him if he's as good. But I thought he maneuvered the draft really well with him and Brian Thomas Jr. And now Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be that gold star for Baalke, right? To be able to – that was not a layup. That absolutely wasn't a layup to go get that. So that's a good find. But all the other things you're saying, I think, are right on. And I guess what this next GM has to be able to do is find the Hall of Famer, right? Find the guy that's making 5 Pro Bowls in a row. Find that guy. So the team that picks behind you doesn't get that guy, and you get a good player that's really helping, but you didn't get the best player.
Yeah. Yeah, well, listen, I'm always going to be under the impression that great teams, they draft great deep in the draft. And that's what I think. I think great teams, obviously, they can hit the layups that are the first rounders, and then teams can adapt from there. And if you get good players in the third and fourth, then you're going to be all right. And once again, like, I feel like the Eagles and the Howie Roseman right now are kind of like the gold standard of how to do things. And I'm not saying, like, I don't think Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell were really layups, Brent, but I think a lot of people were surprised of how the Eagles went about things, right? Because it's not unprecedented to take the top cornerback when you're a cornerback-needed team, sure. But to go back-to-back cornerbacks like they did at that high of a draft, that was a little more surprising. That was a little outside the box thinking, and guess what? Both those guys contributed fantastically, that's a word, to the Eagles Super Bowl run. So it just goes to show you, like, sometimes it's outside the box. Sometimes it's, going left when everybody else goes right, but it's doing what you need to do for your team and obviously filling up the holes that you need to do.
Yeah, Luke, I'll answer your question quick. Does Jaden Daniels play like he did in Washington up in Chicago? We ask these questions all the time. I don't know the answer to that, all right? But I also would ask the question of this. Does Aiden Hutchinson play as well in Jacksonville over the last few years as he did in Detroit? Like, I think you can ask those questions. He's back in his home. It's like he fits with Dan Campbell and that style really well. Do the coaches here in Jacksonville get as much out of an Aiden Hutchinson? Like, you can ask that question about every player. And I do think it's a fair question. I'm not criticizing it. I just think we don't know that answer, right?
No, we definitely don't know the answer. But, like, I think a pass rusher and a quarterback is different, though, Brent. I think you put a great pass rusher anywhere, and I think he's going to have success. I think a quarterback, they need a lot more things to go right for them to have success. And I get, like, yes, right now, Jaden Daniels is steps ahead of Caleb Williams. And Jaden Daniels right now, all the hype's around him. But, like, let's keep in mind, like, there's a guy by the name of Carson Wentz who had all the hype around him for the first couple of years as well. And then what happened? Not saying Jaden Daniels is Carson Wentz, but we just at least I did, his rookie year, CJ Stroud, of how great he was going to be, right? Of how he looked unstoppable, how he essentially willed his team to a playoff run as a rookie. And then what do? They go and reload. You get Stephon Diggs. You get more pieces to take care of him. And then, guys get hurt. But obviously this wasn't the curtain call, I feel like, in his second year that CJ Stroud wanted. So we'll see what Jaden Daniels can do his second year. And we'll see what Caleb Williams can do his second year. But I'm not going to write Caleb Williams off yet. And I'm not going to say, Jaden Daniels is this generational quarterback. Like, yeah, he's on his way to being that because of what he's done his rookie year. But now you got to follow up with it your second year as well.
Well, and by the way, the flip side of that is you take a Bryce Young, who everybody had given up on by October, and now he's flipped it into saying they're not even talking quarterback in Carolina, right? I mean, or they're saying good things about him, and they've got their guy. Nobody knew that 4 months ago. Like, everybody was like, oh, boy. They're in trouble. Look at them. They're the laughing stock. What do they do in Carolina? And then they get playing well. I think that's still one of the undertold stories of the 2024 season is Bryce Young and Dave Canales, by the way, from that Tampa system. And Canales, who was like, okay, is this just like a stopgap guy because nobody wants the job and working at Carolina? And what a job they did with him. And I don't even know if Canales and company thought that Bryce Young was going to play like that, to be honest with you. But down the stretch of the season, they did. All right, let's take a time out. Brent and Austen show here in the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Are we going to get this Hamby today?
Oh, okay.
What?
I don't know. I don't know what to get. What does that even mean? What does this emoji actually mean?
Contemplation?
Contemplation. You were contemplating for 10 minutes.
Hey, that's Brent. No, Brent, put it back up. That's Brent's inner, That's like his inner, what would you call it, like inner monologue, thinking like, hey, how can I find a way to get Trent Baalke in the conversation in a positive light?
Yes,
I know.
This
Trayvon
is like
Walker. There we go.
my thought bubble, essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
How can I find a way to get Trent Baalke in a positive light? Let's do it next
right.
year on the Brent and Austen Show.
We will be back here on a Wednesday. We got some good baseball in town last night. JU and Florida. The Gators win 10-4. A lot of locals playing in that game. We'll talk about. JU had a 2-0 lead early on, but then Florida started hitting home runs, and they are good. The Gators softball team is in town today against UNF. So check it out, Ospreys.com, UNFospreys.com. And the game is on as of now. Obviously, it's a bad weather day in Jacksonville. We'll see if that holds. But a 6 o'clock start with the number 1 ranked team in the country in softball coming to town against the Ospreys later on this evening.
The Tom Bush family of dealerships, they've been serving customers in the Jacksonville area for 55 years. They've been your go-to spot to get and stay on the road since 1970, and that's still the case here in 2025 and beyond, even if the cars have changed just a little bit. Check out the sleek line of vehicles of the future. That's right, electric vehicles. Tom Bush offers a full lineup of reliable electric cars with state-of-the-art service facilities. Like the new VinFast, Tom Bush is among the first dealers in the entire country to offer the VinFast, and let me tell you, this thing is sweet. The good folks at Tom Bush have all the info on charging, service, tax credits, and everything you need to keep your EV running smoothly. BMW, Mazda, Volkswagen, Mini, and the newly offered VinFast. There's something for everyone at the Tom Bush family of dealerships. Ready to join the Tom Bush family? Stop by the showroom or check out the inventory online at tombush.com.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
What is the Amelia, if you don't know?
Do you feel it coming? The rumble in your chest, the roar of the crowd. It's an experience you won't forget. The Emily Motor Oil NHLA Gator Nationals are back March 6th through 9th at Gainesville Raceway. It's where anticipation meets asphalt, where you can meet your heroes face to face and feel like a part of the action. Plus, parking and kids under 12 are free with general admission. The Emily Motor Oil NHLA Gator Nationals, March 6th through 9th. Get your tickets today.
Just be yourself. Maybe we're talking about being a dad or a mom, a first responder or a teacher. Maybe it's a sports fan. We love those. We're talking about anyone in the Jacksonville community. At Community First Credit Union, just be yourself means being real. When you partner with Community First, it's straightforward. They're people connecting with you, so you can be yourself. I've been coming here to Community First for years. This is the Bartram branch, the one I usually come to, and they have mortgage loans, personal loans, and auto loans, and I'm almost done paying off that truck loan. Just a few more months. Good rates, easy online banking, and friendly customer service when I have a question. It's easy to be myself with Community First. They live up to the slogan in their name. Community First has partnerships in the Jacksonville community with the Iceman, the Florida Theater, the Jacksonville Zoo, and many more. Visit one of the Jacksonville branches or find out all you can do with Community First Credit Union at communityfirstfl.org so you can just be yourself.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
And Florida Gators are good, like really good. As you know, like this isn't a Florida Gators show. But we don't raise the pom-poms on the Gators here on this show. Got a Georgia Bulldog fan, got a Murray State fan, and got an Ashland University fan. So we don't go over the top with forced Gator conversation, even when they're 10-20 on the basketball court or whatever. But this team is like really good. Really good. And if you want, obviously, more Gator talk, you get it with Patrick Young and Terry Norvell in the afternoon, 4 to 6, right here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. But this team is worth talking about. And, I mean, a lot of times you go in, you're like, okay, are they Sweet 16 good? Can they win a couple games? That's really the conversation around Florida most years. This is like, no, they are national championship legit. They are really good. Mm-hmm. And it's an incredible build, quick by Todd Golden. I know he came with all that stuff in the early part of the year, and now that thing's been cleared. The bottom line is, if you look through that mud, and that's a separate incident and whole story and situation, but if you talk about it from a basketball standpoint, it's been a hell of a build. This accumulation of talent, how they're spending their money, their NIL money, whatever they're committing, and he does, and he gets guys that still have a little bit of a chip, so he gets to play that way. They play a little edgy. I think Auburn does a good job of that, too, with Bruce Pearl, because that's the way he wants to play. I feel like you can still do that in basketball. You play with that edge a little bit. And if you're older and you're talented, there's a good recipe. You're guard heavy. That doesn't hurt. You got to have some bigs now, and they do. They're so deep. Florida's just so deep. They just throttle people, man. I mean, Oklahoma's not really good, but they beat Oklahoma easily. They're now 23-3. They're number 2 in the country. You can make the case they're the best team in the country. They beat Auburn on the road, and Auburn, you can make the case they're the best team in the country. Or if you want to go Alabama, if you want to go Tennessee, and they beat Tennessee when they were number 1. I think it's going to be an incredible March Madness. I really do, and I said that last year. I don't think it lived up to it. This year might have a real chance to be it. I wonder, Austin, if the SEC teams beat each other up too much, that the league is so good that you beat each other up so much that you're a little fatigued by the time you get to March in any of these situations when you're playing these huge games which take a little gas out of you to begin with, and then you're playing on like a Thursday, Saturday or something like that. That's my only curiosity, but I think they're so good that might not matter.
No, and I agree with you too, because it's kind of like the Big Ten effect, because this is where I can actually talk about the Big Ten in a great way, in a great view, even though we didn't see an SEC team last year in the NCAA championship for football. But I'm going to bring up the Big Ten as well, where it's like, you know what? There are some talented programs there, and they have to kind of go through each other to get to the tournament and everything. So, no, but I don't think that it's going to hurt them. To me, it's only going to make them better, right? Because I think the whole point of the tournament, I'm like, yeah, you're going to have your Cinderellas that there's no rhyme or reason why they're good or why they're making a run. But usually if you're battle tested, if you can go on the road to hostile environments that have a lot of energy and win basketball games, that's going to make you tried and true for the tournament.
Yeah, and I think that I mean it's a real question. They'd have to win it all, right? If they win it all, are they like? Can you start saying they're the best team in school history type of thing? Like, can you start to have those kind of conversations? I remember they won back-to-back national championships. Horford, Noah,
which I think would argue
great.
that's probably, yeah. I mean, I would still go with the older teams than this team if they were to win it. Because, I mean, to go back-to-back, especially in college basketball, man, it's really hard to do.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's really a moot point until then, but you really start to ask the question because they're that talented. That's my point. Like the compliment here is you can start to, hey, what if they do win? Can you ask that question? Or you can ask questions like, would they have beaten that team? Could they compete with that team? A lot of times when you're the best team, like, no way, they couldn't compete with that team. This team, without even winning a national title, can compete with that team, I think. Now, would they beat them? Are they historically, as you look back on it, the best team? No, you've got to do things that are crazy good that team did. Patrick Young, by the way, again, who is on every afternoon here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. I was talking about it yesterday, and he brings up a really good point. And then he even put it on social media. Like, would our team beat them? They had a great 4-year run. Patrick, Elite Eights and Final Fours. And they had a great regular season where they went 18-0 in the SEC. But that year, he brings up that only 3 teams, I think, made it to the tournament from the SEC. He thinks the reason why this team can elevate to, at least in the conversation, and you can have some fun discussions about how good they are in Florida history, is the fact that the league is the best it's ever been. You have to get through 12, 13 really good teams, and just the competition alone in the SEC is way more elevated than it was back in the 05, 06, and Patrick's 2010, 2014 kind of seasons. So the competition in itself is about as good as the Gators have ever been, and they're navigating it, Austen. They've already got 2 number 1 wins, which they had never won a game over a number 1 team in a regular season prior to this year, and they've got 2 of them. And the other thing that I think really falls in the lap of this Florida team is the fact that they're so deep. It is hard to find a basketball team this day and age that is as deep as the Gators are. Most teams want to go 7 or 8 as a rotation by this time of year, by conference play. And these guys can go deeper and deeper. They're actually missing some of their quality guys the last few weeks, and they're not missing a beat.
Yeah, what I'm very curious what's going to happen here in the next couple of years, because you mentioned it. Florida has top to bottom. They are a loaded roster. They have depth. They have everything. They have big men. They have guard play. They're really a complete team. What I'm very curious to see, because I still feel like college basketball, yeah, you have transfer portals and you have NIL and everything, but I still feel like the soul of the game rests in your high school recruiting, right? Is bringing those All-Americans, those McDonald's All-Americans to your program and getting immediate impact from a freshman class. But I wonder if we're going to start to see a shift where, like, okay, college football is going to always be king, right? Because that makes the most money. But there are some programs around this country that I feel like are more basketball schools than football schools. I think Kentucky is a classic example. I think Duke is a classic example. I think even though Bill Belichick's there with a 25-year-old girlfriend, I think UNC is still a basketball school. So when we talk about that, I wonder if they're going to start pooling more and more resources in to reaffirm that they are actually a basketball school and start poaching a bunch of these players from maybe, a Florida team or an Auburn team where, the basketball is important there, but football is kind of king. And I wonder if they get enough resources and enough money and NIL to go, hey, yeah, you guys are doing great at Florida. You guys are doing great at these major conference, these major teams in the SEC, but we're Duke, but we're UNC. But we're Kentucky, and we have all this money that we want to give you guys, and we want to showcase you guys. I wonder if that starts to be the trend a little bit, because we've seen it, obviously. We've seen mid-major players go to, bigger schools, by all means, go make your money. But I wonder if you're going to start to see like a transfer in terms of, hey, we're going to take it up a notch, spend this much more money in NIL for basketball, and some of these players are going to leave.
Yeah, that dynamic is interesting. I think there's 2 things there that I find kind of fascinating. in the landscape of college sports today and how this is shaken out to this degree. And again, Florida's a great example of, yeah, they got money to spend on people, but they spent it right, it looks like, right? They put the pieces together. You have to put the pieces together. One of the big mistakes you make, and that's why everybody's hiring these GMs at the college level, is putting that team together. See, the acquisition of 4 and 5 stars is how it was done in the past. It didn't matter if they were a nice kid, bad kid, this background, that background. You just go get 4 or 5 star talent. And you try to get more than everybody else. And then it's your job as a head coach to put that all together and feed the chemistry and blah, 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 blah. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Some teams get along better. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you can handle it. Sometimes you can't. Like, that's just the nature of sports in general. Even at the professional level, I think there has some of that. But the difference now is you're paying these guys. So who's going to be able to handle it? It's much like paying the free agent in football or wherever else. Like, okay, is he still going to get after it? Does he want to be great? Is he playing for a legacy? Does the money matter to him? Is he going to get complacent? Like, all those things that you have to ask yourself, how's everybody else going to feel about paying this guy with this guy's role? Like, at college level, you have to start doing that. So some teams whiff. Some teams are whiffing on that. But the Florida Gators did not whiff, is the point. Like, they look like they did a hell of a job. So in that respect, when you're doing that, I also think it's not as expensive, Austin, in college basketball to build those teams because you only have 12 players. So it's not as costly. The quarterback right now looks like he's getting crazy money, $2.5, $3 million, $3.5 million. That's going to keep going up, like, for one position. I don't think you're doing that in basketball. Maybe you are in some levels, college basketball, but you can pay everybody pretty handsome, is my point, and put together a hell of a roster in college basketball. If you've got $10 million to play with, forget about $20 million to play with. So it's a doable thing at a bunch of different schools, maybe because the cost is not as much. And by the way, running a football program is very expensive anyway. And for some of these schools, you take a Murray State, right? You hit the crazy lottery. You take Murray State. They want to be good in basketball, right? They want to be that front door program for them. They want to go to the tournament. They want to go to an Elite Eight or a Final Four or whatever. So you can say, hey, man, I got $10 million a year to support you. They'll probably more put that money into basketball, to your point, than they would to football. Now, maybe they will football, and I'm wrong about it, but I could see a Murray State saying, no, we're going to buy into basketball because we can compete and be great in this sport.
No, I mean, listen, Murray State's doing a great job of trying to put money into football because, I mean, you have to spend money to make money, right? So they are doing a good job of doing that. But, I mean, and listen, this is coming from a guy who graduated from there. I'm not naive to it. I understand that it's definitely a basketball school. I understand that guys like Isaiah Cannon, first-round pick, Cam Payne, first-round pick, and then obviously the great John Morant kind of put Murray State on a map and generated a lot of revenue for them when we talked about, the tournament and everything. So, yeah, you kind of have to reaffirm of what's paying the bills. And I feel like, and it's not every single school, obviously, because the SEC and even Big Ten, there's such big football schools, but there are basketball schools out there. And I just wonder if it gets to the point where it's like, because this is the thing about basketball too, Brent, like you don't need to bring in 6, 7 high price guys like in football and to be a team. All you need is like maybe 2 or 3 like studs that are like the top of the country, and all of a sudden your basketball team's completely different. So I just wonder if they start to pull more of their resources in for like those, Kentuckys and Dukes, and it's like, you know what? Let's spend all our money here because this is who we really are.
Yeah, and listen, or are we, to everything you're saying, I think we're so fresh still in this, we're so new in this, we don't fully know how it's going to play out. Is the SEC now the ACC of old? Because of all the football money and all the other money coming in, and they're the best baseball conference or their best football conference or the best now basketball. Like, is this the trend for the next 10, 15, 20 years? Are they the best? And by the way, they've got some great basketball schools like Kentucky to help lead the way. And now you bring in the Texas and Oklahoma. Can they get good? They have been good at times. Florida has been good at times. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like. I'm just going to say this, though, one more time. I do think March Madness is going to be awesome this year because look what happened last night. All right, I'm just going to take the ranked teams last night. Now, Florida does their thing. They win. And again, Oklahoma's terrible. Like, they're 3-10 in the SEC. Okay, so they're not any good. Oklahoma and South Carolina are bad. Other than that, everybody else is good in the SEC. Houston wins. They're the 5th ranked team in the country. I think people sleep on Houston every year, but what a job they've done. I mean, what a program that is. Texas A&M, number 7 in the country. A lot of people think right there to maybe even win. They lost to Mississippi State, 21st in the country. That's what the SEC does, right? But they lost by 16.
Ring the cowbell.
Yeah, they lost by 16. Iowa State wins. They're ranked, but they beat Colorado. TCU upsets Texas Tech, who's number 9 in the country. So they upset them. Wisconsin, by the way, 11th in the country. Sleepy. I didn't know they were that good this year, the Badgers.
They're pretty good. They just had a big win in Purdue.
Yeah, and so they win big. Michigan State, that's a good Purdue-Michigan State matchup, 75-66. Michigan State wins. Marquette wins. And then BYU blows out Kansas. Kansas, who started the year number 1, I think they were, and if not, they were number 2. They're now 23 in the country, and they're going to come out of the top 25. They got beat by 30-plus against BYU. So, now listen, Kansas is better than BYU, but to lose by 30-plus as a ranked team, that's insane. Go ahead.
What is UConn's record right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, did they get it all? I do this in remember college football this year, Florida State was ranked 10th.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Why do we even do rankings? Florida State was ranked 10th. Are you kidding me? Like, why do we give any credence to preseason rankings? That should carry no weight. And this should be the year that we remember that and know that. Florida State, and they weren't the only one. Somebody else was like ranked really high and then like had 3 wins. So let's learn from it. Well, UConn, because they'd won 2 national championships, gets one of the top spots. Now, there's not as big a weight in college basketball to be preseason top whatever because there's so much time to really show who's who. But in football, it carries some weight early on in the season. Now, you build equity having that preseason ranking. But UConn and Kansas are much alike. They were top 3 in the country, I want to say, to begin with. And now UConn's not even in the mix. They're out of the top 25. He's insane. They are 18-8 and 10-5 in the Big East. So they're not like awful, but they're also not
I'm sure
ranked.
they'll make a run.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I don't think they're very good.
I'm kidding. I know, but that was wasn't the MO of them a couple years ago where they won the championship, where they were kind of like the 8 seed or whatever, and they went on that miraculous run in their conference tournament. So, yeah, but maybe you should have took the LA job. You know, maybe you should have went to go coach the Lakers.
Well, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. And why would he?
Oh, come on, man! You remember that? You remember he was like,
I know it.
We're gonna keep on winning here in UConn. Yeah.
What? Why is he? Would he have been this insane, like this much of a maniac in the pros? Because that would not fly, man.
No, Brent, no.
But can he hold it back? Can he not do that? Because I mean, listen, he just won 2 national titles, and you'd think this guy is like fighting for his like coaching life every night. He's defending. He's like showing people rings, walking up. He can't. He's got rabbit ears like Major.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing that if he would have went to the Lakers, it would have been the same persona. But I don't know. Like, do you think Billy Donovan changed up his game a lot when he left Florida, went to OKC? Or was he kind of that same guy still?
Yeah, I think Billy's always been kind of the same.
Okay.
Yeah. I now listen. I don't watch him in the NBA, but I don't think his demeanor really changes. I think the guys that you have to wonder that about, we have for years, right? Can it translate? Or like when Pitino went. Pitino, like known as Pitino's still motivating, by the way, doing a hell of a job at St. John's. And you can get after even this college kid, which we wondered about. Can you get after this college kid that's getting paid and all the rest to the degree you used to be able to? Well, you couldn't get after the NBA guy like that. I think Calipari and Pitino found out they couldn't be successful in the NBA because you can't do that. And my guess, man, is you don't turn that off if you're Hurley at UConn. Like, you don't just turn that off.
Are, man.
I mean, LeBron James would just sit there and punch you in the face if you talk to him like that.
Oh, no, listen, like, if Tom Izzo would have went into the Golden State Warriors or something, Draymond would have clocked him.
That's right.
A couple games into the season, right? But Izzo, who obviously is a very respected and one of the greats right now in college basketball, like, at least in the past, he's had no problem, like, putting a hand on a player and kind of getting in his grill a little bit and letting him know about it. So, yeah, I do agree with you. I feel like you have to have a different mindset when you're talking about the NBA, especially now with the NBA, Brent, because like anything you say can be a Jimmy Butler situation where it's like, okay, well then I want out. I'm out of here. See ya.
I see some headlines about JJ Redick and I see some things, and sometimes I'm not like, okay, well, probably a lot of Laker haters and stuff. But overall, he feels like he's done a pretty good job, at least record-wise, and where they're at. And obviously now they go get Luka and LeBron. But even before Luka came over, like their record isn't bad. They're like 5th in the West or something.
No,
they're right there.
They're on a little bit of a streak now. Yeah, no, they're doing good right now. Yeah.
So has he done a good job? I guess is what I'm asking. You pay attention more to that than me. Yeah. Like, do you feel like Redick has been a good fit for them because he was kind of their rebound off Dan Hurley picking to stay at UConn?
I appreciate Redick because he kind of tells it like it is, right? Where if Bronny is not playing well, he doesn't care about hurting, his father's feelings and LeBron James. He's going to say, hey, Bronny just wasn't playing well. I think there's something to be said for a guy who can come in his first year, play with some pretty high profile players and tell it exactly like it is. And I think that's what JJ Redick's doing. So I think he's done a pretty damn good job so far. Keep in mind, I mean, they're playing in the West, which is absolutely loaded.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have the East where it's the Cavs and
Celtics.
So essentially it's really the Cavs and the Celtics. That's about it. I mean, Milwaukee is kind of on the bottom.
Knicks been okay.
So, but Knicks have been okay, but then you have the West where it's like, okay, we got OKC, who's arguably the best team in the league right now. You got Denver, who's, obviously has an MVP candidate and Joker once again. And then who else we got? So then we got the
Memphis
Lakers are doing
Houston.
Okay. You got Memphis and Houston. Well, Houston's kind of been on a giant slid lately, but Memphis is kind of found a resurgence since last season. So it's super competitive right now in the West, and we'll see because now you get Luka and everything. So can they play together, Luka and LeBron? I think they got the Hornets tonight, which would be a pretty easy matchup. But no, it'll be interesting, Brent, because it looked like when Redick got there, they were kind of, on the back burner of going to the playoffs and everything, but they've really rebounded well.
Listen, Luka, like he took Dallas basically by himself. Was a couple years. When was Dallas last year, or when they went to the finals?
What do you mean? That was last year.
Oh, it was okay. Well, he wasn't by himself. Kyrie was on that team and stuff.
No, he had Kyrie.
So,
yeah.
Can the Lakers actually make the champion? Could they win it?
No, I don't think so. They're a pretty solid team, Brent, but I just think the West is way too tough. And with OKC, can OKC finally get over the hump? Because every single year it seems like, okay, this is the year now, right?
Regular season team, yeah.
Exactly. And Shai, I mean, in my opinion, Shai's the MVP right now, even over Joker, who's probably second. So you got Shai doing his thing, but the biggest thing with OKC is, do they have the toughness to play it in a 7-game series? Do they have the toughness to get over? You have Minnesota, who, I still feel like is trying to figure things out, but you still have Ant, so you can't doubt him. Denver is going to always be Denver. And then, listen, I understand, they're on the bottom of the list right now, but Golden State is a team you want to keep an eye on because since they got Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry's once again playing at MVP level. I think he's leading the league in points, 3-point percentage. And I forgot what the other, I forgot there's another stat too he's leading it in. But since they got Jimmy Butler, Brent, it's everything's turned around in Golden State as well.
Yeah, you got to give us a good slam poetry on Friday.
I think
there's been a lot going on here in the NBA.
Yeah.
Listen, I would say this: I'm not a Lakers guy. I grew up a Celtics fan, so I hated the Lakers. Now I like LeBron. I've always been a LeBron fan. I think it's kind of fun to watch Luka as well. YB400 says Lakers and Boston in the finals. I think that would be unbelievable. If you got that, is my point. I mean, it would
ratings.
it'd be great. And
I think. Go ahead, sorry.
Just in a strange way, again, I like LeBron. I love watching LeBron play. I love the history of LeBron, what he's done for the game, how he's still playing at this level. And I'm such a casual NBA guy that I think it'd be awesome to see LeBron win another one and do it with Luke, if they could do it. Now, I get everything you're saying. They're not. I got to believe the odds aren't great for them to win over some of the Cavs and the Thunder and the Celtics and whoever else, Denver maybe. But it would be pretty awesome for the sport and maybe kind of what the sport needs right now, the NBA, which has taken a little bit of a hit this season.
Well, let me ask you this. I get it's always the Celtics and Lakers for the ratings and everything and the storylines, the two storied franchises. What would you think, though, if it was the Lakers and Cavs? What would that be the storyline? Because, I mean, obviously it's going to be all about, you got Luka there, but it's all about LeBron James. Let's be honest here. So, what do we talk about if we got the Cleveland Cavaliers taking on, the the former king of Cleveland in James.
Yeah, it'd be unbelievable. I think it'd be great. Be a great storyline.
I think it'd be a pretty good storyline.
Yeah, great storyline. I actually think, from a sports perspective, right? I think there are two things in the NBA that I think probably should feel like they're more transcendent of a topic. And I get it. Like, if you watch the NBA, if you follow the NBA a lot, you get it all the time. You're thinking like, this is obvious. But I'm telling you, as people, like, I don't do that night in, night out. And even though we talk sports all the time, because it's not as transcendent as, like, you name it, something else. Like, even Ohtani is more transcendent at times when he's doing what he's doing, I think, than some of the things going on in the NBA. And those two things for me are what Shai, definitely MVP. You just said it. I don't even think people know who the hell he is. Like, honestly, I don't even think. It was like Joker before he got the MVP awards. Like, he needed to win one before people are like, who is this guy in Oklahoma City? And then the other thing is the Cavs. The Cavs, who fell on their face and, like, it killed the organization. It felt like when LeBron left the first time to go to Miami, and it was like, oh my gosh. Well, they have recovered beautifully since he went to the Lakers. Like, I think it's such an undertold story about what the Cavs, I mean, Cleveland, they like have done it right to be, I think people would be stunned if they woke up from a 5-year nap to figure out that the Cleveland Cavs are the best, if not one of the best teams in the NBA.
No, without a doubt. I mean, Spider, Mitchell, he's the real deal, man. They're a solid team. They play together, and they are one of the best teams in the NBA. You still got to go through Boston, but right now they've been dominating. And I think what it gets to, Brent, is eventually, and I'm not saying Cleveland's to this point yet, but okay, take the Oklahoma City Thunder, for example. If you look at the rosters year in and year out, they should have won by now.
Yeah.
Look back up all the talent that the Thunder have had.
Yeah.
They probably
12 years, 15 years. Yeah,
exactly. They should have won one by now, right? And Cleveland's not even close to that level yet, because I feel like they're starting on the come up a little bit. But when you talk about Cleveland, yeah, they have done things the right way, and it's not flashy of, hey, we're going to give up all these players to try. No, it's just they've done it with drafting, they've done it with good free agent signings, and they've kind of done it the hard way, if you will. But it's paying dividends, because year in, year out now, they're consistently getting better and better. And I think, the Magic are trying to take that route as well. And a lot of teams in the NBA who aren't the Lakers or, these high-priced, the Golden State Warriors, or I got to go over here. Like, sometimes you got to draft, and sometimes you got to do right in free agency. And those teams are doing it, Brent. But yeah. So we'll see what happens. And then Dallas, too, don't sleep on. I mean, I'm going to sleep on Dallas a little bit, and then the West, just because it seems like Anthony Davis is going to be out for a little bit. And I'm very curious to see. And this is like the new thing now, Brent. You remember how when we used to do the old show, I used to cherish Houston Texans Twitter, just because they were in such shambles and they were a dumpster fire. Now it's sad because they're in the division. But back in the day, when they had a team chaplain essentially running the team, they were the joke of the NFL. And I love Texans Twitter because fans were upset. JJ Watt's leaving, Hopkins is leaving. It was fun to celebrate in their sadness. And now what do we get for it? They're at the top of the division. But I will say this, I'm having a blast celebrating in the Dallas Mavericks fans' sadness, because they're upset, every right to be upset. And now with Anthony Davis being sidelined for a little bit, you hate to see it.
But it's entertaining, is what you're getting at.
Well, no, listen, and I don't feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for the fans, but I don't feel bad for the organization. Like, you traded away your best player. You traded away your face of your franchise. You traded away arguably a top 5 player in the NBA. This is what you get. And one last point, talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this is why you got to have Brent, and I took this to Hamby this morning. I forgot what time it was because I'm so jet lagged from being on the West Coast, but the NHL Four Nations did 10.1 million.
Yeah,
USA versus Canada, 10.1 million. Those are pretty good numbers. If you want to talk about the NBA and what you got to do to change it, but like we've been talking about, Brent, you get USA versus the world. And all of a sudden you got Braun, and you got whoever else from the USA that you want to throw in there. But they're taking on Joker, Giannis, Shai. People would pay to see that. I would
Luka.
tune in to watch that. And obviously Luka as well. And I think players would have a little more incentive to play hard in that game because now we're talking about bragging rights.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would be pretty wild. It would be interesting if Dallas is able to find itself because that would be what a story getting rid of Luka. It almost remind me a little like almost like the Aaron Rodgers stuff. I'm trying to think of like another player you try to get rid. You're like, oh, can't get rid of that guy. He's so good. But if we get rid of him,
Saquon Barkley, Brent.
well, no, that'd be like if you got rid of Saquon Barkley and like right now it feels like it's Saquon Barkley for the Lakers. What I'm saying is Dallas ends up doing well. And then you got rid of the guy because there's more stuff to like, hey, he was a pain in the ass or something like this, right? Like people didn't really know. So that's like more the Rodgers thing where they get rid of Rodgers and hey, look, they've still won a lot of football games even without Aaron Rodgers. Or it would have been like if they got rid of Barkley and they started winning games with the Giants. You don't see it happen very much in sports, but they are in the mix. And so if they kind of rebound and find themselves, it was such a shocking maneuver at the time that it feels like they're just going to go lose every game by 30 like they did the first time they played. Remember, they were down by like 40 points at halftime. In the first game, they gave up 91 points, I think it was, at half. And it felt like, oh, boy, that's what this is going to look like for the next couple months. Well, it actually hasn't looked like that since. And also, if Anthony Davis does come back, maybe they do make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, I still believe in Kyrie and everything, Brent, but I just feel like when you trade away a player like that, and once again, we don't know the intricacies of what kind of teammate he was, what kind of motivator Luka was, but I watched a guy put his team out in the back in the Western Finals. And I watched a guy will his team on a game-winning 3 to take on Boston in the finals. Like, we all saw that. So to me, it's hard to justify. It will always be hard to justify that move, even though, okay, if Anthony Davis is healthy, yeah, he's one of the best big men in the league. If he's healthy, and yeah, maybe it's going to work with Kyrie Irving. But I just feel like if that was my teammate in Luka, and once again, I don't know what kind of teammate he is, but we just had a guy that essentially led us to the finals, and you traded him away. Number one, it's going to be hard to get motivated to play for that franchise after they just let that guy go. But number two, to me, it's going to mess up the whole dynamic where it's like, well, we had Luka and we went to the finals and you traded him away and now what? So if I'm a player in that Mavericks locker room, I'm asking a lot of questions and I'm not trying to like stage a mutiny because yeah, we're still a solid team. I'm trying to win, and especially with Kyrie too. And this is surprising and we'll see how this pans out, Brent. I feel like Kyrie Irving sometimes gets a bad rap and some of the stuff he does on his own accord. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like with Kyrie, so far, I feel like he's handled it pretty well. Because if any guy would have been like, oh,
yeah,
well, you just traded away Luka, well, then get me out of here as well. I felt like it would have been Kyrie Irving. But surprisingly, he seemed to be a team-first guy and hasn't really said anything, in a bad light about the situation. So that'll be a story to keep an eye on, too, where if they start losing maybe because Anthony Davis is hurt, is Kyrie going to keep an even head here, or is he going to start going on flat earth mode and all of a sudden just like try to torch the Dallas Mavericks?
Well, he has basically said, forget about it, USA. I'm playing for Team Australia in the next Olympics, which I also think like he's born in Australia. I always think that's weird. It's like, how do you play for two different countries in your tenure? Like, that's odd to me. But we'll talk about that when the Olympics come around, I guess, next. All right, Hamby, wake up. NBA talk over. Back to football we go in just a little bit. We'll be right back. The Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Hey, don't forget, we have a partnership with JaxPal.org, and you can too. Jacksonville Police Athletic League. Go to JaxPal.org. How you can help kids. You can donate. The after-school programs. Be a part of it. Get your kids involved with it as well. Fantastic organization, JaxPal.org, and what they do for the kids in Northeast Florida. JaxPal.org. When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at NimnickBuickGMC.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road. and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnicht has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnicht. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnicht. GMC. We are professional grade. I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can save $500 on a Connecticut Premier Softener and get a free Connect Salt Monitor with purchase. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
The rhythm of my heart is beating like a drum, with we are murder rolling off our tongues. Never will we roam, for we know our place is home. Where the ocean meets the skies, we be sailing. Where the ocean meets the skies, we be sailing.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, you want a job as a bat boy?
Let's go, baby.
Jumbo shrimp? There you go. Look at that, February 19th. What's that, today?
That's
4 to
today.
7. And then you got a couple other dates as the season nears. I was at the shrimp on Monday. It's really cool. Some of the stuff that they've got going on. You can see the construction, and they're going to be hustling now to get that thing by April 1st, I believe, is opening day here at home. They go on the road for a couple of days early, and then I think right around April 1st come back. And that's when the season will start, that first week of April. And it looks great. I mean, the right field wall, the entranceway and center. They were putting up actually the hitter's eye, the batter's eye thing, the green wall when I was there the other day. That never bothered me, at least that I know of, or maybe I just never thought about it as a hitter, like the background.
It is helpful.
I mean, I don't feel like I feel like we played on enough open fields like you didn't have that. Mm-hmm. Like you just had whatever was in the background, whether it was trees or whatever else. I don't remember thinking about that as a player. Maybe I just wasn't a good hitter.
I mean, the Brewers have like the biggest, most obvious one in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. By the way, I get it because there actually is. That's one of the things I haven't been over there recently. Like Fort Family.
Yeah,
did they change that?
Yeah,
they put a bigger one up.
Yep.
Because they had a car dealership in the background of that, and they were all lights. So when it was nighttime, you couldn't see. So like it's a real thing. Like it's like shadows. Like the Cubs and day game folks all those years had to worry about that shadow from home plate. I mean, it's really hard to see 95, 98 miles an hour coming out of the pitcher's arm when you're talking sunlight into a shadow as well. It really magnifies it. So I get it. But bottom line is they were putting that up at the baseball grounds at Bragan Field. They've got this new home plate club area. They've actually removed the offices because those are going to go out to right field in that building. And there's a home plate club area where you can buy a ticket and you sit behind home plate and you can go just walk through a little area and you get to an inside area where there's a buffet and there's bathrooms and there's a bar. And so they're selling those kind of tickets and packages. That hasn't been available in the past. They're actually putting their big jumbo shrimp store out in that center field, right field area. And it's going to be 2.5 times as big as the old one. So you'll be able. It really makes a lot of sense, right? Those parking lots right there in between the baseball grounds and Everbank. Now you'll be able to park there and enter right there instead of walk to the front where you did in the past. So a lot of it makes a ton of sense, and it's looking good. And go check out a jumbo shrimp game or get a job like Hamby did. I don't know if at that job fair, is that where you went to get Bat Boy status, or was that a different application?
No, that's it.
Oh, that's what you did?
Yeah.
Cool.
Man, I should just go.
Brent, you be a bat boy?
Hey, when the kids are done and I'm not chasing around softball games and baseball games in another 4 years, I'm just going to get a gig as a bat boy.
There you go.
That'd be awesome.
Now, keyword being boy, but yeah, okay, I got you.
Batman. Hey, that's not a bad thing to put on the resume.
Gonna be a Batman. I like it.
Good buddy of mine, his dad, when he kind of stepped off the gas of his job, kind of semi-retired, he just became a ticket guy there. So you do the tickets for the first couple innings, and then once everybody's in and the gates are closed, you just go watch the game.
Oh man, I'm like that's me. I think that's like Steph and I will probably have like a job doing that. Like that's the greatest. Go down to spring training for like 6 weeks and be like a ticket taker or an usher.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Like I could see us doing it. I'll tell you, the amount of, it's really, what did I say? I almost tweeted this yesterday. Steph's watch. See, right now we're watching a lot of the kids that the kids played ball with. So like Ty played with some real, and we knew Ty was playing on some really good teams growing up. And so like we're watching Florida State, Auburn, like, and we know kids playing on those teams like that Ty either played against or played with. Like that was, we knew they're like really good talent. And so we're watching those games. We're watching like Auburn, Troy last night because actually Colby Frieda, who played at Creekside, he's now at Troy. He wasn't pitching last night, but we were just watching. It was like the only game on, so Steph found it. All right. And Steph's comment is this huge picture on the, like, not like why, but I mean, he's just big bone guy, like had to weigh like 240, right? 6 something. And she says her quote was like, man, he's got a lot of padding in his bum. I was like, you sound like my grandmother. like, what's that?
What is it with the Martineaus and an athlete's bum? What is it?
I don't know.
Because we had the Patrick Mahomes thing.
Yeah, we did.
And now we got a picture from he's from Auburn. But where's he from?
Yeah, he's Auburn. We're very judgy, apparently.
I guess so, man. Sure.
Hey, just make sure you're looking good in that cage next Monday night when we're watching.
You got it, man. Yeah. Thankfully, my shorts will be kind of baggy, so I'm not going to have to worry about all the criticisms.
I just thought it was just so funny, but that's what we do right now. We're just finding games like all over the place and looking them up. So, yeah, we could definitely be the usher at some point. Hey, speaking of, did you see your dude yesterday, Hamby?
Who's my dude?
You see your Georgia pitcher?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What's that guy's problem? Have you seen this? Did you get that?
No, I haven't.
Look, by the end of the show, you got to get that, Hamby. I can't believe you didn't bring it to the show today.
I didn't know if I was allowed because of the broadcast.
Oh, we got to show it.
Okay.
we got to show it. I mean, the pitchers are goofy.
Yeah.
They just are. Like we were talking about this yesterday. I told him about
I feel like
Mussina.
baseball players are all kind of goofy, Brent.
Well, baseball players, I call.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't think as a whole baseball players.
No,
pitchers
you're goofy, man. I remember and this is kind of set around all the colleges. Like, listen, I love baseball, man, and I'm sure there's a lot of great players out there. But we always felt like in college, like baseball players are kind of like they're their own little entity. Basketball players and football players, we're all cool and everything. But like baseball players, you're kind of all your own little clique. Okay, what do we got here?
Watch his eyes. Watch it. Watch what he does when he looks back at the second base.
Wow.
And then watch the reaction strikeout.
That ends the game.
What are we doing? You just beat Kennesaw State, dude.
I'm charging the mound.
That's not his fault that the starting pitcher gave up 6 runs.
I'm charging the mound immediately.
What are we doing?
What was that?
I could not. I'm telling you, I watched this 100 times and I was like, I can't imagine. I want to tweet like, what are we doing? And then I'm like, I kind of loved it. I couldn't remember. I couldn't figure out if I loved it or hated it.
No, that's like the Babe Ruth calling a shot right there. He's like, I'm
when you throw
I'm going to strike your boy out.
Yeah, when you throw upper nines with a hammer like that to end the game, you can kind of say whatever you want.
Now, if it would have been a home run, he would have been on the show for a
he would have been
reason.
getting, I don't know, he would have.
Kiss the NIL money goodbye. You're playing D3 someplace in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, because there ain't no way you're going to be at Georgia doing that.
So he's their closer?
Yeah, Curly.
Wow, he looks like he's 5'9", like 185, and he throws upper 90s?
Oh, yeah.
Is his last name Curly, or is that like his nickname that you just called him because you're part of the team?
No, his name is Brian Curly, and I didn't know who he was before yesterday. He's 5'10", 210.
Oh, wow, is it that big? Huh.
He's a transfer from VCU.
And that game was a little intense because, like, Georgia did a home run and the guy stood it down and then pointed at the pitcher in that game. So there was a lot of that going back and forth, which, here's what I say. You can say, like, baseball players are goofy, and they might be. What I always say about baseball players are just, like, they're the fakest tough guys in the world. Like, they really are. Like, they just act like the bravado about baseball guys is over the top. Based on their actual toughness. Like, on the actual toughness meter of a baseball player, like, versus what they will tell you and how they come across is, like, just the gap is massive compared to other sports.
Brent, let me ask you this. Who's more fake tough, NASCAR drivers or baseball players?
Well, that's a good one.
That's a great question.
That's actually a good question. Yeah, that's a fair question. I would actually say they'll probably still baseball. But NASCAR guys are like that. NASCAR guys are like, sometimes they can be like golfers that turn into like the tough guy. It'd be like if you had like a fake fight on the green, a little like mouthing off and shoving, but you'd never get a punch. But there are occasionally now you get punches in the NASCAR world. But it's quickly hold me back. And that's what happens in baseball. Baseball is like a base brawl and then hold me back. Very few guys are really throwing. It's pushing, shoving, and a lot of yapping that got to the point, but you don't back it up. And listen, I grew up playing the sport. I've always said it about the sport. I don't not respect you playing and everything else, but we're seeing it big time now, and the college game especially is like that. It's like these guys chirp so much, and they're huge. Like they look the part. But my guess is like they ain't throwing down at the bar at night. Is my point.
Brent, it's like I've been saying, man. This is back in the old show. We're trying to find investors, man, for the XLB, where we're going to actually encourage fights. Where if you start a fight in a baseball game and you don't finish it, guess what? You just got fined $30,000. Thanks for playing, right? So, like, and by the way, steroids all legal. Take every steroid in the book. Take all the Flintstone vitamins. Like that's what we got to do, Brent. Because listen, like you're starting to see alternative sports now and everything. I feel like if there's room for the XFL, there's room for the XLB.
Yeah, you've said that for years. It would be something. By the way, get John Rocker in that thing, right?
Oh, my gosh. Well, he's fighting Patrick Mahomes Sr., ain't he? When's that fight?
Did you see that, by the way?
Stop.
Did you see it's come out that it was all promotion, the whole Bourbon Street thing?
Oh,
really?
Obviously. Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Hamby.
Come on, hey, wait a minute. You're a guy. Austin's a guy that's lived through this. He learned the lesson. Down at the Super Bowl in Miami. He knows what promotion looks like now.
I saw this firsthand, man. Hamby, since we're on the topic about sharing videos and everything, can we share the video that I posted to you this morning? Or do you not have it ready?
Nope, I got it.
Because I feel like the college basketball talk would have been the perfect time to do it, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Illinois basketball fail? Is that what this is?
Here we go.
Have you seen this yet?
I haven't. I don't think, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Actually, hold on. Let me play it with the sound.
So I'm going to set this scene real quick. So Terrence Shannon, Illinois basketball great, led him to what? I think it was Final Four or Elite Eight last year. He came back to the university so he could get his jersey retired, right? So giant ceremony, all the fans, all his family are there, and this is what happened.
Terrence, please unveil the banner for your honor jersey that will hang from the ceiling of State Farm Center.
Oh my God.
He's getting jail time for that.
I did see this now. I didn't know that was Illinois. I guess I never put two and two together. I just saw like a headline about it.
He's getting jail time for this.
Somebody's definitely getting fired for that.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
You know what I don't understand? It's like, how does it happen?
I get it though. Brent, I get it though.
Do you?
I kind of do, man, because like you got to think about it. Like sometimes, like when I put my clothes on the hangers, I put them upside down or like the wrong way. Like I can understand where you put the banner up and it's upside. Like, I get it, man.
Yeah, but I get it too. Listen, I'm not good at directions, and so I make like some stupid. Like I would drive in circles sometimes, and I just too stubborn to even try to figure it out, or even I'm thinking about other things for this network than that. And I'll do I would do something like that, like geometry or whatever you would equate that to, or a sense of direction, or just some of those things. They don't always compute well in my brain, so I get it. What I don't get is, wouldn't it have been a practice thing? Like, wouldn't you have dropped it down to see if it worked?
Brent, but then you have to roll it back up. That's a lot of
work. One shot. One shot.
This guy doesn't have all the hours in the day to do that.
Now he has plenty.
Imagine, your family's there. Like, it's such a big moment, and you completely screwed it. Oh man. Like, dude, you thought
it's so good.
Dwayne Wade's statue thing in Miami was that?
It is. At least Dwayne Wade's statue is that's an art. That's hard to do. This was already made. Okay,
the right way. Yeah, man. Unreal.
I'm trying to think of epic fails like that. What I wonder in a situation like that, there's no way I believe that wasn't practiced or rehearsed. Like, you had to at least know, because they pulled the thing. So if you're going to pull the thing, you got to practice to know that it's going to work. So when they practice, they just put it back up wrong, or do they just not roll it up right? Or are they going to get to a point where somebody came in and played a trick?
Ooh.
Right? Did somebody come? Was this some drunk college kid? They came in and was like, oh, watch this. We're going to mess around with this thing.
Some like Northwestern fan instead. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, have they taken that down in Miami yet?
That's bad too.
Nope.
That's really bad. I still got a picture taken with it. What was I thinking? Why did I go get my picture taken with
Oh,
that?
you should have done that. That would have been good.
Oh, man. The wasted opportunity there.
I think, though, when you're like, let's say, take the pride of the Jaguars, right? When you're Coughlin this year,
Sure.
and you're doing that, and there must be like this. Like, I know I would have this because we live in a business too where you're just kind of like, hope this works. Like, I hope this works. Like, we do that quite a bit. But I would imagine if you're in charge of whatever ceremony, that game day ops, whoever would be in charge of that, when you go to the reveal, there are things that are like, oh, I hope this works, especially in the Coughlin thing because the NFL window at halftime is so tight. So you can't have a snag, right? So it's like, wait, the sheet won't work. Like, it's not coming undone. Yeah. And you know you're the thing that people know now is if you screw something up like that, you're an instant meme.
Yeah.
Like, you're instant viral.
Hold on. Let's listen to the sound.
For the rest of your life.
Let's listen to the crowd reaction one more time.
Terrence, please unveil the banner for your honor jersey that will hang from the ceiling of State Farm Center.
I love the oh my God guy.
I didn't even notice that. They made him pull it himself.
That might be my favorite thing is that he's the one that pulled it.
Jail time. Brent, someone's got to do jail time. Someone's got to go to Guantanamo Bay or if that place is still open. But like that's unacceptable.
Alcatraz.
They should.
Alcatraz.
They should.
Yeah.
If Illinois basketball is smart and their promotion and marketing teams are smart, they will.
You missed it.
No, next season. Oh, maybe they already did something. Next season around this time or whatever, they would highlight a day as Terrence Shannon Day, Upside Down Day, or something like that.
So when they won, I forgot who they played in that game. It might be like a competitive game, whatever the case may be. But when they won, their social media department like showcased their coach. Like I think it was like a monumental win for him, and they posted a picture of him upside down.
Oh, good, well done.
So like,
I can appreciate that. Mean, that is good.
Well, yeah. What are you gonna do? You gonna try to hide it? Like you have to embrace it now.
That is good. Hey, I always say, man, you live life to tell stories. At least Shannon's got one to tell. Nobody got hurt. Right?
No,
somebody might have got fired, but nobody got hurt.
Somebody better have gotten fired, man, because that's a big mix-up right there.
That is really awesome. That's great stuff. Hey, let's. We got Daniel Griffith's article to talk about today. Take you inside some numbers and what he's talking about on actionsportsjacks.com. We will get to back some football, although we do have fun when we're not talking football. Maybe we should just not talk football as much. Why press it?
NBA's talking
NBA?
Or not?
Oh, that's because Hamby was sleeping when we were talking the NBA. You going to talk a little MLB? Then you go take a nap.
Right, it's spring training. There's nothing to talk about for spring training right now. Yeah, guys look good. Guys reporting back.
And like as you upside down, turn it around.
There you go.
Proceeds from the upside down banner shirt will benefit the Don Moyer Boys and Girls Club.
That's awesome. Good for you guys, Illinois. Nice job. That is well done. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. I like that.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. We'll be back on the Brent and Austen Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. It's one of the hot spots in the area.
Welcome you to String Sports Brewery out at the beach. Big crowd on hand tonight. The fans are here.
And now the newest hot spot at the beach is open. String Sports Brewery in Jax Beach has opened its doors with rave reviews.
We're going to be fans forever.
Cozy up to the bar. Grab a seat in the sports-themed restaurant, or grab a seat outside and feel that breeze coming off the beach as the weather warms. Just like the original location in Springfield, try the popular beer menu and come for lunch or dinner too, because the food is fantastic. He's got some exciting news heading into 2025 as well. Christian Kirk. It's where we hosted Jags Report Live in the football season, and the String Sports Brewery staff can't wait to host you. Hey, welcome back here to String Sports Brewery. And if you haven't checked out the new location in Jax Beach, which many of you have, you got to do it. String Sports Brewery, now with 2 locations in Springfield and now open in Jax Beach on Penman Road.
2024 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Kruzanovich's under-23 men's team.
They sit in the dying moments.
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season.
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the net for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices or pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports, from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com.
The Tom Bush family of dealerships, they've been serving customers in the Jacksonville area for 55 years. They've been your go-to spot to get and stay on the road since 1970, and that's still the case here in 2025 and beyond, even if the cars have changed just a little bit.
Check out the sleek line of vehicles of the future. That's right, electric vehicles. Tom Bush offers a full lineup of reliable electric cars with state-of-the-art service facilities. Like the new VinFast, Tom Bush is among the first dealers in the entire country to offer the VinFast, and let me tell you, this thing is sweet. The good folks at Tom Bush have all the info on charging, service, tax credits, and everything you need to keep your EV running smoothly. BMW, Mazda, Volkswagen, Mini, and the newly offered VinFast. There's something for everyone at the Tom Bush family of dealerships. Ready to join the Tom Bush family? Stop by the showroom or check out the inventory online at tombush.com.
Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, taking another look at the Wednesday lineup. Count the hours of original programming on this baby. We got Brent and Austen Show right now, the Cup date with Stuart Weber with a successful and victorious William Byron off the Daytona 500. That's at 1 o'clock. Then a week with us, a week with Action News Jax, Action Sports Jax at 1:30. Then no gate fees. A lot of high school baseball kicking off, softball season kicking off this week. We'll have all that for you. And that's at 1 o'clock. Young and Norvell with Patrick Young at 4. You'll see no gate fees at 6. And we will get back to the Scrap House next week. And we were talking about it earlier or yesterday, Brent, that William Byron, the Daytona 500, we had a little crossover because he dropped off AJ Styles at Monday Night Raw.
Mm-hmm. He sure did.
And
now,
it was a little cramped in there for AJ.
A little cramped in there for AJ. I'm going to say this with all due respect to Mr. Byron, who is the back-to-back Daytona 500 champion now.
Mm-hmm.
If I was at a wrestling show and he was standing right next to me, wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have even recognized him because he's not a big dude.
He's like,
I don't know. I don't know why, like, when I think of, like, NASCAR drivers or like IndyCar drivers who are constantly shaking hands with God, trying not to crash and everything, I put them on like such like a giant pedestal. Like, these guys are like larger than life, and then you see the actual like appearance of them next to like professional wrestlers and standing in the crowd. It's like, oh, you guys are tiny. I mean, Malcolm in the Middle got like top 10 in the Truck Series. Did you guys see that? Yeah, Frankie Muniz, the star from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, he's been racing now for a few years, and so I didn't realize that's where he finished though in the trucks race.
I'm pretty sure he was top 10. Yeah,
look at you. I like it. Dropping some knowledge.
It was all over Twitter. That's the only reason why I knew about it.
I was going to say, watch Cup Date today at 1 o'clock. Stuart Weber will tell you all about it.
That's right.
Well,
guys. But before we that venture back into football and sports, what we talk about in the show, can I bring up a travel question with you guys real quick? Because I got into a little debate with my son, and I want to see who was right and wrong here.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, to kind of set the scene real quick. So obviously I was in South Florida for the past month or so. Being in South Florida, I had a big suitcase full of gym clothes and everything to go out and everything like that. So when I get back to Jacksonville, it's always my thing when I get back from vacation or a trip, the first thing I do when I get home is I unpack my suitcase. And my son was baffled by this because I had to pick up my son then when I get back to Jacksonville. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm unpacking my suitcase." He's like, "Well, you have to go to like Las Vegas in a couple of days. Why are you unpacking your suitcase?" I'm like, "Well, because if I don't, I feel like it's going to drive me crazy. Like, I have to unpack it." So like the first thing I literally do, regardless of the time, could be a red-eye flight, could be in the morning, whatever the case may be. When I get back from a vacation, I got to unpack my suitcase, or else I just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's OCD, but I just don't feel right not unpacking it. Now, there's some people out there, and I think my son falls in this category, where he's like, I'll just let it hang out for like a week or 2 weeks because I have plenty of clothes like, outside the suitcase, so I'm all good. So the question, gentlemen, when you get back from a vacation or a trip, do you unpack the suitcase right away, or do you just let it kind of marinate and chill for a while?
Hamby?
Yeah, that baby might be chilling in the corner for at least a week.
Hamby's marinating it. Hamby's marinating it.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I can't do it, man.
I might be the guy actually who, if I have another trip coming up, I might here's what I would probably do. Take the laundry bag, take the suitcase, straight to the washer, dump it in the washer, put it in the dryer. Once it gets out, the exact same clothes, right back in the suitcase. And let's ride.
I can appreciate that. I respect that. I'm actually on, this is like easy for me to answer. I am on Team Ronan all the way. Yep. Like, I wheel that thing in and I'm like, I ain't doing this right now. No way. Like, sometimes you're in, especially with the Jags, right? It's it's a light pack. You're overnight. Sometimes I actually bring a bigger suitcase because we'll put some equipment in there and stuff. Sometimes you're getting back super late. Sometimes it's normal time, but that thing sits like in my bedroom, usually still not unpacked for at least a couple of days until I finally get to the point where I'm like, where the hell is that shirt?
Yep.
Or where is that? Like, I forgot to do it. Now, what I'll usually do is take the dirty clothes pretty quickly and boom, but I won't unpack the rest. I can be so lazy at times. Like, I don't feel like I'm a lazy person, but I really can be lazy at times.
Yeah, this is why I'm surprised Brent.
Yeah,
and Hamby, yeah, sure. Okay, well, why not? Brent, I'm surprised with you.
I wouldn't call Hamby lazy. I think that's efficient. Dump it all in at once and dump it right back in. That's pretty good.
Speaking of dryer,
I'm not mad at that.
My dryer at the place is actually not working. I was trying to do a thing of laundry yesterday. No heat. It'll spin.
Oh,
and it'll
you
do
need a new
everything.
heating element.
So I was like, all right, well, before I tell my buddy that I live with who owns the house, let me see, because we've talked about this. I don't know handyman stuff, but I want to know handyman stuff.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I don't know handyman stuff, and I don't want to know handyman
wanna
stuff.
know.
I had Bolt City Heating and Air over this morning to help me out with that.
So
no, don't want to know. But interestingly enough, one of my jobs when I was like high school, college, is my buddy Pat, his brother owned an appliance store, right? So even Steph, when she actually helped out. She was washing fridges and stoves, and that's what you did. You get the used appliances, and then they would resell them. And so you had to fix some of the stuff up. And then we would deliver up like third floor stuff like washers and dryers and fridges, man. It was pretty wild. Well, and part of that is I learned about the dryers and when they're going wrong because you go repair them. Now, I didn't really do the repairing. I wasn't very good at it, but I watched like my buddy do it. And I guarantee it's a heating element problem. Which is not a bad fix, I don't think, if I remember correctly. Like, it's a fixable thing. You don't have to throw away the dryer.
No, yeah. I mean, it went into Lynn. I tried the breaker box, turn it off and on, check the vent. That didn't help it either. So, I was on YouTube for like 45 minutes.
You live in Florida. The outside is your dryer, man. Like, you'll be all right.
No,
just put your clothes outside.
Clothesline.
Except for it's 50 degrees and raining, so...
Oh, okay, well, if it's raining, that's going to be an issue. Sorry,
listen,
man.
I would still
Vegas,
think
man.
most
I don't know
people,
what rain it is anymore.
Most people still have a dryer, even though it's warm in Florida.
No, I agree with you, but you're talking to a guy who grew up with his grandparents who we had a clothesline, man.
So did
and
we.
Like, I don't know.
My grandparents.
I'm not trying to hate on it. Like, I'm not trying to hate on dryers. Dryers are super convenient, but there is something to be like to go outside and like grab your clothes off the clothesline and like I don't know, man. I
That's
like
such
it.
great nostalgia, by the way. Like going back to like my grandparents. The house, like the tiny house, the clothesline stuff, the garden, just everything about it. Like you can smell it still.
Until the bird fancies your favorite shirt as
some of that.
A nice
that could be an
place.
issue then.
Do
we have any comments in the chat about the suitcase though, so I can see if I'm right or wrong here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're wrong on this show.
Delphonic says wash laundry and unpack suitcase immediately.
Thank you, Delphonic.
Says, I'm sorry, I'm unpacking ASAP. Have to separate clothes from dark colors, rags, towels, and whites. Huh?
Oh, really?
Goodness gracious, son. Put that all in there together.
Put that.
I like it.
Put it all in there together. It could be the thermal fuse, by the way. Steven says. Now I don't know. Now I don't know what you're talking about. If it's a thermal fuse,
Steven,
now you're screwed. Go get a new dryer. But wash laundry and unpack suitcase immediately. I guess that maybe people will have to put it out there. We'll see if more people jump in on that conversation. Maybe I'll put a little poll question out there on that one. Brent Martineau, Austen Lane, Jason Hamby. How important is Daniel Griffith's article today is about this motion offense and play action. And the quote is how have motion and play action revolutionized NFL offenses. And so we got one of these charts.
Let's go.
Can you read the chart, Hamby?
Yes. So what we have here is we have play action percentage on the left, and we have passing with motion on the bottom. And it won't take you long to look that Jacksonville did very little of both relative to the rest of the league. We did less than 25% play action, less than 45% of the snaps with motion. And then you look towards the right of your screen, and who's at the top of both of those? Well, the Lions, the Rams, the Packers, the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. So it's not 100% unilateral because the Redskins didn't do a ton of motion, the Commanders did not do a ton of motion, and the Broncos didn't do a lot of it either.
QB.
But yes, You're right, Austin. Of course, if you have a running quarterback, you can kind of divvy that up in a different way.
And a young quarterback.
Well, I was to say a young quarterback, yeah, like with like Nix and Daniels, man, like, you can't throw the whole playbook at them right away, right? You have to ingrain them in a little bit. I am surprised though of one team on this list. I thought that the Buffalo Bills used a lot more motion than what we're seeing here, because I figured like how these receivers are getting open.
Yeah, I would think so too.
One last note: everybody that's colored made it to the playoffs. And then Jacksonville was an addition, and then all of the darker bubbles are teams that were not in the playoffs.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously what you're really looking at is look at what Detroit and the Rams do. And then where's Tampa? Where's Tampa? Tampa's kind of really not.
Tampa wasn't that much either, surprisingly.
No. So what does this say? Like, so here's where my mind goes to this. And it's a good chart, and there's more on this, by the way, like, Daniel in his article today asks, how important are using motion and play action? Well, if you look at the raw data, they certainly are not insignificant. Starting with motion, teams average 7.3 yards per pass attempt with motion compared to 7 without. Similarly, teams average 4.5 yards per carry with motion as opposed to 4.3 without. So it's a difference. It's not a massive difference, but hey, a little bit helps. So teams utilizing play action average 8.1 yards per attempt, contrasted by a mere 6.8 yards without. I feel like everybody always wants to get into play action. The thing about play action usually, Austin, is you got to be able to run the ball effectively, right?
Without a doubt. Yes, correct, Brent.
And so the motion thing is a different story. The motion, to me, is this where innovation is. Like when Shad Khan says, we have been predictable, been most predictable on offense and defense in the National Football League this year, blah, 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 blah. Do you simply become unpredictable because of motion?
Do you become unpredictable because of motion? Yeah, I mean, I think if there's something like, for once again, man, this Bills thing has kind of thrown me off a little bit, Brent, because I would say, well, the Bills, they want to pound the rock. Like that's their identity. So then why wouldn't you use more like play action to get off that? And according to this chart, they really haven't. So that's a little surprising to me, but I think, so here's what I think. I think if you're a great running team, Brent, then play action kind of goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and this doesn't really necessarily go because you have the Lions and the Rams who can both run the ball, but I always felt like, I feel like motion was put into place to, maybe make up for not being able to run the ball, maybe making up for like wide receivers who aren't like the top of their league who can't get open, because then motion allows you to get open in different ways. Mm-hmm. But then I'm seeing teams like the Rams, I'm seeing teams like the Lions, the Packers. I don't know, man. I'm trying to like put this whole category thing in a box here of like how I can define it, but it's really hard.
Well, let me just ask one more thing then.
Yeah.
Motion, you're just trying to get intel, right? I mean, you're really trying to find out if the defense is in zone or man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Motion is obviously it's tailored for, okay, if the guy's going to follow you, they're in man. If the guy's going to shift the coverage, then they're in zone for sure. But I also think motion is used to, maybe key guys open, to script guys open, if you will.
Yeah, and I get that. And you can do a lot of things off it. I thought in 2022, now, whether it's the true sense of motion, I always thought it was, I call it eye candy more than anything else. In 22, I thought we saw some of this kind of stuff with Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you guys feel like, again, a lot of folks thought over the last year and a half, and some of the results of their offense showed that it's getting stale. It's an older offense. It's not as innovative. It is more predictable. Did you feel like they used more motion and play action in 2022 than they did in 23 and 24 when they were having success? Like, I kind of feel like they do. I think I referenced that a ton of times last year. Remember how many times I'd say, like, well, Christian Kirk was in the backfield, or the Jamal Agnew play when he comes into the backfield and then turns around and goes back out, and they hit a quick play for a 2-point conversion or something down near the goal line. I just felt like you missed a lot of that. So I guess, like, that's what I'm getting at. Motion kind of at least breeds innovation to a degree because you've got moving parts. Sure. And now, obviously, it's a little bit more complex on the offensive side. You've got to time things a little bit better. You've got to make sure people are set. You don't have two people going in motion. Like, it's more complicated. But obviously more and more teams have gone that way, and specifically as it relates to the Rams, as you see, and Detroit and Ben Johnson, where this is where the coaching tree stuff came from this year, right? In Detroit, and obviously what the Rams have done under McVay, you're going to get more of this. But I think what's kind of ironic is that Tampa didn't do it at the degree that the Rams have done it. So Cohen maybe is a little more of a mixed bag.
Yeah, and to talk about Peterson, it seemed like when Peterson was really cooking, when he was in the kitchen using all the paprika, it had a lot to do with, number one, the run game. It seemed like it was a little better. But like when he would incorporate Agnew, and no, it wasn't like every single down, but like he had a little Agnew wrinkle here, and then every once in a while he'd go someplace else, and it was this design, like, I don't want to call them trick plays, but they were gadgets, they were motion, they were taking the defense off their keys and everything. But I think that was definitely predicated off being able to run the football and keeping defenses on their heels. If you look at offenses that are in this realm of, high play action, high motion, the Rams, the Detroit Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, we think they're pretty solid offenses, right? Those are great offenses. Well, what do they all have in common? The ability to run the football, right? So I think that's what this correlation is really saying more than anything, Brent. Because then, I see teams like the Texans, the Chiefs, and granted the Chiefs are kind of the anomaly because they want to run the football, but injuries and everything. But Houston with Mixon was doing pretty well. The Chargers want to run the football. So to me, what I'm taking away here is we think of offenses who use a lot of motion, who use a lot of play action as these innovative, these high scoring offenses. And yeah, maybe they are, but I think they're all predicated in the ability to run the football. And you see that with the Lions, the Chargers, the Rams, the Vikings, the Packers, the Texans, the Ravens. So maybe that's what this Jaguars team is missing. And ironically, we want to tout Liam Cohen and say what a great job he did in Tampa Bay, especially when you had a lot of guys get injured and you don't see a lot of motion. You don't see a lot of play action. So then that tells me that it comes down to more of, the trenches. It comes down to more of the talent of your offensive line to do their job. And say what you want about Tampa Bay, but their offensive line with Tristan Wirfs, pretty damn solid.
Yeah, I think what you are getting at, first of all, you're looking at teams that made the playoffs, at least on that right side of the screen, if you're watching and seeing this graphic now. And again, these are playoff teams that are highlighted, the colored bubbles, if you will, are teams that made the playoffs. Sure. What I think is, so there's a couple of things that are, striking to me. You have Cohen off that McVay tree. Okay, there's the Rams. You also have Green Bay and Minnesota that come off that tree, so you could see more of it. I actually think Houston comes from, that's the Shanahan tree. I think was Slowick, and obviously they fired Slowick this year. But one that kind of gets me here is Kansas City. So Doug's has Andy Reid's offense. But is this a sign that they're evolving the offense in Kansas City more than Doug was evolving it here? Or to your point, is this they just run the ball more effectively? Is kind of the root of this is that they run the ball more effectively.
I think so, but also I think in Kansas City, Brent, it's an anomaly because of all the injuries too. Like, keep in mind, you can go and call motion all this stuff, but you have to have wide receivers on the same page, right? Like, this is why we talk about Sean Payton being an offensive guru. Well, look at what Sean Payton was doing, right? Because you kind of had a rookie quarterback who was still learning the game. So, you have to make it digestible to who your quarterback is. And look at this. I'm really curious to see who the other two teams that didn't make the playoffs are with such high motion. Because when I think of motion, I think of the Rams, I think of the Lions, but I'm trying to think of the teams that we're missing here.
Oh, I see it. And those other two black
is there
dots
a list?
There?
Did he send a list of us to every single team or not?
I don't think so. Well, maybe he did it in the article. But yeah, probably we can.
That's probably the 49ers.
Ooh, good call.
And
Miami.
Okay, sure. Yeah. That's going
to be our guess.
Let me see if I can find it.
That'll be our guess.
Sounds about right, guys.
So,
that sounds
anyway,
about right.
There's a deeper dive with more numbers and everything else. If you look on actionsportsjacks.com, Daniel Griffiths contributing to the show here. And this is an interesting topic. This is what kind of offense can we expect? What's good in the league? What works in the league? Obviously, you see the tree falling off here and where Liam Cohen could fit in. And keep this in mind about Tampa Bay, where he's maybe not as extreme as the Rams in Green Bay and Minnesota coming off that tree. Tampa Bay, he changed things up even from a running style standpoint. Now, they ran the ball really well, but he changed things up from what he normally would do to, because he thought that would be better, the scheme, the running scheme to fit Tampa, and obviously he was right. So what are we going to get the Tampa edition of Liam Cohen in that offense, or are we going to get more the Rams edition of Liam Cohen? And while there certainly is a lot of crossover there, I don't think it's exactly the way maybe he would have planned to do it last year in Tampa. He adjusted. Players, not plays, right? He adjusted. So how will he have to adjust here to Jacksonville based on the kind of players that they have and the tool set that he has to work with on the offensive side of the ball? Did you find it, Hamby?
No, it's kind of locked.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, hey, how about let's say we're right? We feel pretty good about our answers.
Okay.
But Brent, what I'm curious about too is that if Chris Godwin doesn't go out, if Mike Evans doesn't go out, in terms more of motion than it is actually play action, but I wonder if those numbers would have been a lot higher, right? Like, I wonder if he had to tailor the offense a little more to, okay, so we have some, maybe more inexperienced guys at wide receiver, at tight end, whatever the case may be. So we kind of have to, shift it and make it a little more easier to understand.
Might have had to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's very much important. Again, I think that a lot of that stuff dictates these kind of things. And what I'd really like to, Denver made the playoffs without doing a lot of motion.
No, without a doubt.
So, and Buffalo did, and without the play
Washington
action
did.
as much. And obviously Tampa. And so, and by the way, I still think it's a pretty significant amount of motion. Based on the percentage, you're almost at 50%.
Oh, yeah. 1 and 3. Yeah,
but
even for Denver,
the outlier is Denver.
Every third play.
Yeah, the outlier is Denver.
But it's still like every third play you're running motion. Like I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting look and kind of how we see this offense coming together here in Jacksonville with Liam Cohen. Take a time out here on the show, Brent and Austen Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Hey, don't forget to check out the QR code in the left corner of the screen that you'll see. Obviously, there's one for Bozard and Mobile Services, and then there's another one for the Amelia 30th anniversary of the Amelia up there in Amelia Island, March 6th through the 9th. You can be a part of it. How do you get tickets? Festivities every day, each and every day. Almost 30,000 people there last year. You don't want to miss it. It's a big party on Amelia Island, and you can be a part of it by clicking on the QR code and going to AmeliaConcours.com as well to get the latest information on how you can be a part of the festivities up there in early March.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
Just be yourself. Maybe we're talking about being a dad or a mom, a first responder or a teacher. Maybe it's a sports fan. We love those. We're talking about anyone in the Jacksonville community. At Community First Credit Union, just be yourself means being real. When you partner with Community First, it's straightforward. They're people connecting with you so you can be yourself. I've been coming here to Community First for years. This is the Bartram branch, the one I usually come to. And they have mortgage loans, personal loans, and auto loans. And I'm almost done paying off that truck loan. Just a few more months. Good rates, easy online banking, and friendly customer service when I have a question. It's easy to be myself with Community First. They live up to the slogan in their name. Community First has partnerships in the Jacksonville community with the Iceman, the Florida Theater, the Jacksonville Zoo, and many more. Visit one of the Jacksonville branches or find out all you can do with Community First Credit Union at communityfirstfl.org so you can just be yourself.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show Jags Social to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jax 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242. You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing. Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, you can take 10% off any water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Update coming up right after this on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. 1 o'clock with Stuart Weber. Obviously a lot to digest from the Daytona 500. And then at 1:30, it will be a week with us with Olivia Tassley. She rewinds the week on CBS 47 and Fox 30. And if you missed Marcel Robinson's fantastic piece on the Jackson family and the Florida Gators, make sure you check that out at 1:30. That will be a part of it. 2 o'clock, we've got no gate fees. We're talking baseball and softball. We're talking a little pitching for the boys side of things in baseball. And also curiosity of where's the dominant pitching, or how is it in softball here locally? I thought that was one of the interesting questions asked by one of the coaches when we sent out a topic list, and we'll talk about that today on the show. Plus, we'll have Committed to the Uncommitted, presented by Nimnick Buick GMC. We'll give out a $100 gift card from Perfect Rack Billiards to our Coach of the Week. First time we've done that. We'll also have Action Sports Jax on campus and much more on no gate fees coming up at 2 o'clock. That replays at 6. At 3 o'clock, we have After the Game. And by the way, new episodes of that coming out with Mike Boswell from Bowles and also Tom Lucas from St. John's Country Day in the next couple of weeks with Josh Baker. So We got a lot happening here on the network today. All you got to do is go to actionsportsshacks.com. Daniel, who wrote the article for actionsportsshacks.com, that will be up here in a little bit. I got to push that over to our web folks. Haven't done it yet. That he said it was Miami and San Francisco, the other two teams there. So we got it right.
Yep.
We win.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, wait.
Yeah. We're back. You go from daytime to nighttime in Vegas in a hurry.
Without a doubt.
Just watch out for those wires above you. Don't let any fireworks hit or laser beams hit those things.
Yeah, for sure.
You're back. We love it. Awesome. Great. Yep. Hey, we're back too. And I don't know how many times throughout the year we're going to be able to play fly on the wall game, but we have been able to play it a lot in the last 4 weeks with the Jags looking for coaches and GMs. So we just really like to use the artwork that Danielle puts together for us. So and we kind of look good. There's a good looking flies right here now.
Mustache is pretty generous. I'm not going to lie, but
yeah,
okay.
It's pretty generous.
It was based off of, I mean, I had it for over a year. I haven't had it in a long time, but
that's pretty generous.
One day I'll bring it back.
You got the beard filled up pretty good on that fly. If we add to this, we will like somehow get a point where we get the swatter. Someone gets swatted out of there. Smushed and swatted. But anyway, the fly on the wall today is the GMs are interviewing today, tomorrow, Friday. And let's just, if you're a GM, Austin, I brought this up a little bit yesterday. Like, why do you want this job? Well, you interview them as well, right? Like, why do I want this job? You're interested in me. That's great. I should want the job because there's Trevor Lawrence, decent roster, all this other stuff. But what's going to help me take the job? You know, when you go into this, you got to know that it's a thing that's going to work for you and your family and everybody else, and you're going to be successful. And I guess like one of the paramount things you would ask is really the power structure here, right? Like, what is it going to look like? Because if my butt is on the line, whether it is wins and losses we talked about earlier, construction of the locker room, the overall thing, if I'm going to be attached to it, I've got to be able to have a voice. And that's fine that Liam Cohen is the heavy in the building and it's coach-centric. But how loud is my voice, right? What's the volume on my voice as the GM? And I know everybody's going to throw out collaborative, right? Collaborative is a word that everybody uses, but everybody sells you on collaborative too. Think about your job and if you've gone in for an interview and what they sell you on for an interview, and do they actually live up to it, right? Now, do they live up to a lot of it? Probably. Do they live up to some of it that actually was a sticking point for you at one time or another? Maybe for a week or two or a month, but do they 3 months, 2 years, all that after? And now it doesn't bother you as much maybe, or things are good, or you figured out some other ways, but they sold you on something. This was a sticking point, and they're not really delivering. And so collaborative to me is empty for this GM if I'm applying for the job. I get it's collaborative. We're going to all work together. The building's going to work together. It's a team effort. But are you going to listen to me, Austin, when I've got a pretty strong conviction? I think is pretty important too.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a really big deal, especially because Liam Cohen's talked about so much about communication. If I'm a GM and I'm coming into the meeting, and it's a lot of interviewing, asking questions to the GM, but one of the very first questions that I'm going to ask if I'm the GM is, what makes a Jaguars player? What is the definition of a Jaguars player? Because I think when you ask that question, you get kind of a baseline of where this team can go and what this team's chemistry and identity is supposed to be. Because I think, like, listen, we saw this with Trent Baalke nonstop, right? Like, Trent Baalke has a type of player that he likes to draft. Like, now sometimes it's going to be based off need, right? But if Trent Baalke had it his way, every player on our team would have an 85-inch, wingspan and all this stuff.
Well, that punter's got long arms.
Sign him. And that's probably the saving grace with, to Trevor Lawrence. I'm sure he had a longer wingspan than Zach Wilson did. So
thank goodness.
No, but but like that, and it's like I think Eric Armstead's another classic example. Whether it was Ryan Nielsen, but like keep in mind, Trent Baalke had control of the roster, and he allowed this to happen. Where it's like, okay, I'm going to have a big defensive end because that's what we had a little bit in San Fran. So I would ask Brent of what makes a Jaguars player, and what kind of player do you want here, and if that's going to coincide with my philosophies of a scouting evaluator as a talent evaluator, then let's go. But I think sometimes a GM has his own kind of thing in his mind of what he wants to draft, what he wants to bring to a team. And sometimes maybe an owner or a coach has a different philosophy, right? So that's what I'm asking, because I have to make sure, like, yeah, I get it. It's one of 2-3 jobs. So you almost got to pull the trigger on it. But I'm going to pull the trigger knowing that the type of guys that I'm trying to draft, that I'm into, are the type of guys that are going to work here in Jacksonville.
I think it's a good point, Hamby. That's something that's morphed and changed. I think you can say a lot that you want, but we learned, right? I mean, you're looking at the Jags, and I don't know if they know this coming from the outside looking in. As I told somebody, I think I told Liam Cohen's dad, I was like, listen, he's going to love everybody in this locker room. I told him that the news guy, like, this locker room is fantastic. These guys are great. You're going to love them. But you still wonder if there's enough edge and all this other stuff that goes into making a championship winner because of what we said all year long. It's not disrespectful to the players. Just almost, I use the phrase, they're almost too professional at times, right? Like, do you have to adjust, Hamby, right? We talked about this a lot, the makeup. So I think Austin's question's a good one. And where does that land? Like, I don't think you built 53 the exact same way is the point.
Right, and I think part of it would be, if I'm the GM, is like, do we have to have both sides of the ball with the same, I don't want to say identity, but as far as the same personality.
Yeah, same makeup.
Right.
Yeah.
Do I have to, can I make the defense this way? And Cohen kind of can tailor make the offense to, and I'll take more input there, but I want to be the lead of, I want this particular guy on defense. I've seen it work, and work with Camp more so on that side of the ball. That's what, if I was going along with Austin's prompt here, that's what I would ask.
Yeah, and I think it's a great question. Go ahead.
I was going to say, also keep in mind too, if it's going to be a me and Hamby kind of collaboration, the first question Hamby's going to ask is, how many Georgia Bulldogs do you have on your team? 1, 2? See ya. Not enough for me.
Fair question.
There are 14 going to the combine. How many can I draft? Can I get 14 picks in this draft alone and just take them all?
Fair question, though.
Michael Williams got a heck of an arm length.
Fair question. All right, what about Hamby? Have you thought about this? What do you got? You got something?
I think for me, because of the fact that the GM is going to have a little bit less say, I don't know about say, but he's not going to have full control that there exists on other teams. I think one of the biggest reasons why that wouldn't be a bigger deal, or one of the bigger trade-offs, is job security. And especially for a lot of these GMs in this class, they're not going to want to be the scapegoat. And I think they're kind of hidden from being the scapegoat because they're not the heavy, right? And so I would almost want a virtual guarantee of job security. So my question would be, hey, if I have to guess, the conversation with Liam Cohen is, you're going to open up the stadium. Am I going to get the same guarantee? Am I going to get the same guarantee as the head coach that we're going to ride this thing out for at least the first 3, 4, 5 years, and I get to see the fruits of my labor beyond just a draft or two? And how tied am I going to be to Liam Cohen if he's the lead dog on this? That if it doesn't work with him, does that automatically mean that it's not going to work with me as well?
Yeah, listen, I don't mind that. I think you got to be a little careful in an interview to come off very selfish in that sense, right?
I'm here for 10 years at least, or I'm not signing.
That's right. Go. But people are good at contract stuff if you're wanted, right? You can then, I always look at it that lens. I'm like, all right, do I really think that highly of myself, But that's actually not a bad way to look and protect and cover. Now, you're never getting guarantee, but I get your point. Like we've said this about Liam Cohen. Listen, as long as you don't pull an Urban or do whatever else, there's some runway here. We want you to open this. We understand there are some things that you're going to have to navigate, and for that, we're going to be, we We probably won't as be quick to fire as the Philadelphia Eagles would be or whoever else would be, right? So I think that's a fair conversation. This is not going to be my fly-on-the-wall question, but I do wonder if this goes on. And this is what I would do, I think, if I was a GM candidate. Because of even the Baalke deal, guys, in the mix, because you did add a third layer. And so what I would try to do is present an example. And I would say, and this we're going to get into this a little bit today anyway. So actually, this is probably my answer. If we have to make a tough decision on Christian Kirk, how is that process? I feel this way about Kirk. Okay, how involved is Baalke's opinion on Kirk? Where does Liam and the wide receiver, like who is, I present this thing of, hey, we could go a couple ways here. How are we making the decision? Walk me through it. What's it look like? Because then at least I know up front. And that's what I want to hold them to. This is how it works. Hey, we're going to all have input. Obviously, we want to reach a consensus because that's how the draft works. That's how free agency works. That's how it's worked for decades and decades in buildings, in sports. You reach a consensus of, hey, I might not fully be on board, but I'm going to talk you into being on board. And then sooner or later, you get on. It's almost like a jury, where you're like, all right, that makes sense. I can buy that. I get that. I got to check my ego and not have to be the right guy in the room, right? The smartest guy in the room. I understand that. That is a good decision. Like you have to get to that point. But how do you get to that point when you have Baalke, who has a football mind, can be a strong mind, is that it wasn't necessarily written in his job description that he's going to be like, no, I really think we should take this. Where does the owner factor in? Are you deferring? Are you going to come in and be like, I do have an opinion? And then where does Liam Cohen, how strong is he on something like that? Like the future of Christian Kirk here in Jacksonville. And so I would love to know that. And probably when it comes to that, guys, and also the draft, like, where is this? Because you are going to get on the same page philosophically. You are going to get on the same page vision-wise. You are going to get on the same page, hopefully personality-wise, where you think you can work together. You're not just trying to take the job just to take the job. So, like, all those things are going to add up, or you probably wouldn't be in this spot, or you're probably not going to take the job anyway. But I would really like to know up front, if I'm one of these guys, like, how is this decision-making working? This is how it worked in Chicago. This is how it worked. I'm talking about Ian Cunningham. This is how it worked in Philly. This is how it worked in Baltimore. And guys, also, I thought it really worked the best in Philly because of boom, 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 right? Like, that's why you're here, to help provide some of that. But how do you guys see it? And then we set the standard. Like, this is, to me, in that interview, you set the standard. You told me this is how we're doing it. If we're going to pivot off that, then we need a big meeting in a year and a half to say why we pivoted off the way we do this, the process of doing it. To me, that would be very important. That'd be a very important thing of laying it out, because my guess is as you walk around other buildings or you're involved in other buildings, I don't think everybody does it the same, Austin. I would suspect there are different things. Agreed. And there's a new layer added here in Jacksonville that really we've only had for 2 out of the dozen years of Shad Khan's ownership, and that is the EVP role. And that Baalke role is so wide-reaching that it also becomes very ambiguous, quite frankly. So you have to identify that in this process. Hey, I love Tony. Can't wait to work with him. Respect his football knowledge. But when it comes down to a decision, like, where are we at? Like, that would be a question I would certainly have. I don't want to be the third wheel here in Jacksonville if I'm the GM. I think that's not a concern necessarily. I just think it's a fair question. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, without a doubt, man. I think those are justified, and every team's going to be different. I just think that the way that Liam Cohen, I think it was important that he did this, the way that he came out in the press conference and kind of set the status quo and kind of said how it's going to be. I think that's important, because the last thing you want to do if you're a GM is you don't want to sign up for a situation. You get into the situation, all of a sudden, oh, this isn't what I was told. This is different. I didn't expect the chain of communication to be like that. I respect the fact that everything's been laid out before everybody. So now there's no excuses of, oh, okay, I didn't know that, like, because that's where we went wrong in the past. That's where we went wrong with Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone and everything. And everyone's looking at everyone like, wait, I thought I was, no, you can't have that. So hopefully you don't get those circumstances when you bring a GM in, just because everything has been laid out before him.
Yeah, and listen, I think this, you just said it. it hasn't always clicked that way. These things seem elementary, maybe, but I think this is where the toxicity comes in. And I think this is where you got to this is where transparency comes in. Like everybody, when I say transparency, I don't only mean transparency to you, the fan, or to everybody in Jacksonville or wherever else. I'm talking, that's transparency. Like that is like, we're going to be open. And you've heard Liam say that, hey, we're going to be open. We're going to be honest with each other. Like, those could be some tough conversations, but like it's got to be out there. If it's not there, these are too big of decisions. Mm-hmm. And speaking of too big of decisions, play a little game with you guys here since we're talking GM. We'll do after the break, we'll do the free agent. One free agent you'd add right now, like there's a list of free agents out there, and it can be an okay name. I think they can afford a big name free agent. I just don't think they're picking up 3, 4, 5 of them this year. I don't believe they're spending crazy money. Now, maybe that's part of the plan. When you have a new staff, they're like, I want this guy, I want this guy. Maybe Shaw does open up the wallet. Maybe they eat dead money, whatever that might look like. They may make more moves than I think. But I do think they have room to go get a stud corner if they want one, Jair Alexander or something like that. Talk about that part in a moment. I think they're going to have tough decisions to make in this, and this is why we bring this up. I think they do have tough decisions to make about a Christian Kirk, about what they're doing on the offensive line, even though some of those guys are under contract, about some of their defensive front guys, because they do have bodies. Are they Band-Aids or are they solutions? About what they're doing at linebacker. They're paying Foye a lot. Are they getting enough? They have to give up on Devin Lloyd. What do they do with Ventrell Miller? How does Chad Muma fit in the mix? Do they actually, even though they've got bodies, do they have to go get somebody? And then the secondary, I think, is a little bit more open because you're trying to find some answers there. So if you had to pick one tough decision that this team will make, and it'd be like, oh, wow, like we're going to talk about it for a show or two sometime in March, because the league year's sneaking up on us now. It's just around the corner. So, Austen, do you have one that comes to mind that's like, don't be surprised if this happens and we're a little wowed by it or taken aback by it or it's a headliner, but it might happen because you got a new regime in?
I mean, I think this is the Madden player in me, but if you want to create excitement, if you want to create buzz, if you want to find that identity of who you're trying to be, match your coach, make your quarterback happy, all these things, it's T. Higgins. But
yeah,
now
so
he's tagged. So
go get T. Higgins. Like that would be the free agent move side of it. What about
that'd be the free agent move?
What about a tough decision to make that the guy that's on the roster is no longer on the roster? And you can come back to it if you want. Hamby, you got one?
No, I mean, okay.
Go ahead, Awesome.
I mean, so there's obviously two. I don't get why there's two. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the tough decision is going to be Christian Kirk because Trevor Lawrence wants him here. Injury history shows, though, can he be dependable? You know, has he lost a step? Plays the slot. Parker Washington's there. That, to me, is the hard decision. The other one, which, once again, I don't think it makes any sense, but everyone keeps talking about is Evan Ingram, where I think Evan Ingram's a no-brainer to keep here, but everyone's saying how he could be a casualty. So I don't think it should be that hard of a decision, but I guess throw Evan Ingram in there just because he hasn't been mentioned a lot by Liam Cohen. People are saying he might get, let go, whatever the case may be. So I say Christian Kirk, but I think society's going to say Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram.
What do you got, Hamby?
Yeah, if I want to take the easy route, I think, a guy like Ronald Darby. I don't know if that's quite hits the criteria of what you're asking, because we don't have the affinity towards him that we do like a Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram. So he's signed a 2-year deal. You cut the last one. I would be curious to see what Devon Hamilton's cap hit is.
That's a pretty good one.
That could be a tough one because I know he signed a 3-year deal. I think that was 2 years ago. But that might have been an extension to where he's on. He's probably on a contract for 2 more years.
He's a $10.8 million cap hit this year. He's got dead cap of $15 million.
That's probably
the base salary is 6.3. So
it's a big hit.
So yeah, it's a pretty sizable chunk.
Yeah,
But that's, again, I think that falls under what I'm asking here. That could be like, wait a minute, you got this guy in a contract, you're going to open up a hole. Well, why are you going to open up a hole? Mason Graham, right? Like, does that make sense? And you're like, okay, we'll eat dead money here. We haven't got a lot out of him, let's be honest. I mean, for whatever reason, this has not been what we thought we were signing up for. Are we going to roll that back and just hope for the best once again, or are we going to go get something there?
Right.
And that's that's the point of the conversation, because I think the Jags have a lot of guys. I went through the roster a little bit just moments ago. I think you could individually go through a lot of guys, be like, yeah, they could upgrade, but they might have to eat dead money. This might not be popular, or it might be a little surprising. I know Kirk is obviously a big one, but here's the thing. I'm starting to lean way more on the Kirk. I think I was already here anyway. I kind of feel like Kirk's going to be back, guys. I think Trevor's going to have a say in that. I think that's his guy. I think Ingram, I agree with you, Austin. I don't think Ingram should be as loud as a talker. I think actually from a tight end money standpoint, he's okay. I think you're banking on him getting one more really good year here in Jacksonville.
What he means to the team, too, just the leadership and the identity.
The edge, all those things that we're looking for, right? And I think Kirk, Spencer Whipple, familiarity, that doesn't hurt. I think they do probably try to reach out to Kirk and say, can we restructure this thing a bit? I think that would make sense. I don't know if it happens, but I think it makes sense that they do that. So I'm off Kirk in that regard. I think Devon Hamilton's a very good answer here, actually. Like and yeah, you're kind of taking the easy way out on Darby, if I'm being completely honest, on this experiment. I actually think Savage is a better example of the Darby situation, a 3-year deal. Do they move on from Savage now, or are they okay with them? Now, they probably won't, because you're bringing in the Green Bay guys. So if the Green Bay guys like them, they probably like Savage as well. I'm just telling you, I think that's a better example than, like, to me, Darby's out. Like, I don't even think Darby's going to be a part of this thing. He got benched last year. Like, what are you carrying him around for, right? I mean, to me, he's already out, in my opinion. I think that the surprise moves you could make really fall on the, I wouldn't say super surprised, but again, you got to eat money on this. That or a Foyer kind of move and say, hey, we're going to pivot from the expensive part of that. Now, I'm not telling you from the play part of that, but from the expensive part of that. And we're going to replenish that linebacking group because we feel like we want to play this style versus that style. That would surprise us, right? If Foyer's gone or something, they'd be like, whoa. And that's what I'm getting at with this conversation. I actually think the other one is Walker Little. Like, I really do. Like, could they just say, if you're going to beef up the offensive line, could you try to move him, right? He's at a reasonable deal, and you're like, listen, we're going to go get better at this spot, whether it's free agency or draft, and that's not it right now. We don't feel the same way Trent Baalke and this organization felt. And so we're going to go upgrade, and we might be able to get a 5th-round pick out of it. Again, these aren't supposed – I want the reaction Austen just had out of those kind of moves. That's what I'm asking for here. Well, these are tough decisions to make for the football team that would, I think, send a little bit of a shockwave or at least a little startle when you say the name out loud. And that's where I go on both sides of the ball.
Let me ask you this, Brent. And listen, I agree. Like, I think Christian Kirk's got a pretty good shot of staying just because of Trevor Lawrence, and kind of giving Trevor what he wants, whether that's right or wrong. We'll let the future be the decider here. But assuming that they keep Christian Kirk, are we going to say then that this wide receiving room is going to stay the same? Or are you saying, does Gabe Davis have a chance to leave? Because if he doesn't, and you keep Gabe Davis on this team, it's going to be hard to justify paying him all that money to be a backup if you try to address the wide receiver position in free agency or, early on in the draft. So I guess my question is, does this wide receiving core stay the same then if Christian Kirk stays? Does Gabe Davis possibly get let go? And I say let go because the trade value is non-existent, I feel like, for Gabe Davis. So then what is the plan going to be, you think, Brent?
Yeah, I think you could still add a receiver, guys, and this would be in the draft. This isn't T. Higgins. You would add a receiver still with Kirk staying. I think Gabe Davis, I feel like he's on the roster. He's really like a $5 million cap hit this year, which is not bad at all. But I think you really start you're on a young rookie contract with Brian Thomas Jr. You rework and restructure to some degree the Kirk deal, in my opinion. I think they will ask him that. I think it's a $24 million hit. Is he willing to stay at a restructured rate? And my guess is probably can make that work in his favor as well, coming off 2 injured years, which is realistic to ask a guy. He hasn't performed at the level because he hasn't been healthy enough. And so if you look at it that way, your top receivers are Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, and Gabe Davis. There's certainly room. What you're bumping out is Parker Washington, Devin Duvernay, Tim Jones, Josh Reynolds, those guys. You can go get Ted McMillan still if you want at number 5. Like if you really wanted to go get a guy, you can get a guy, and Gabe Davis becomes your 4th wide receiver, and it's a reasonable insurance policy is what I'm getting at. And Parker Washington is your insurance policy once again for Christian Kirk in the slot. So I think you can do that.
Justify paying that much money for Gabe Davis to be a 4? Who, let's be honest, if you're a 4, and I get injuries happen, so maybe he gets thrust in there, but assuming that nobody gets hurt and Gabe's going to be on the bench most of the time, can you justify paying him that much money? Because he's making the same amount of money as Saquon Barkley's making.
Well, again, at the length of the contract, what he's making is $13 million a year. You're right. But they already gave him $24 million to sign. He's guaranteed in this contract, okay? Over 3 years out of the 39. It's 6.4. I'm sorry, I thought it was 4.5 or 5. It's 6.4 million this year. Which, by the way, by wide receiver standards, that's not like a lot of money. And I do think you have to worry about injuries like we have for the last couple of years at the wide receiver spot. So what I'm saying is you get a guy, you're most likely going to draft a guy not at number 5. So if you're going to draft a guy at wide receiver, it's coming in the 2nd, 3rd, maybe even the 4th round. Who knows if he even beats out Gabe Davis this year? But you start building it. And you go get another receiver. So I'm just telling you, I don't think you're getting a star receiver like a T. Higgins, but I think you can keep Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr., and still add a receiver that you want to play. And I think Davis either has to beat that dude out or he becomes a little bit of an insurance policy for a team that has suffered quite a bit of injuries at the wide receiver spot the last couple of years.
I got you.
So, I mean, we'll see. But I just don't think, by the way, the dead cap on him is $20 million. You ain't cutting him. You keep him at 6.5. That's okay. So, and you're right, trading wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So
I don't think anybody wants him,
unless he goes out and really has a good year. You can get out after 20. Again, you paid him $24 million, which means if you cut him or tried to get out from underneath him now, you're paying him a guaranteed rate of $24 million for 1 year, and he didn't do anything. Like you can't find the logic in that. Or I can find the logic in keeping a guy around for $6 million. Like a $6 million wide receiver is not a lot of money for this year. So that's the way I would approach it. I don't look at him as a $13 million wide receiver. I know the contract says that over 3 years. I'm looking at him more as a $6.5 million receiver. Can we get that production? And also, that would be a good insurance policy, even if you added something else in the draft. So, yeah, I do think that's possible. The other part of this, Austen, is it's really weird because you're going to run it back. Like the weird thing about this offense is there's a really good chance you run it back. I think partly people don't want it. If you're in favor of Kirk going, it's partly because of that. You know they're a little bit stuck with Gabe Davis, and you also just don't want to run it back the exact same way. Like I really feel like people are worried about that part. So hey, let's do this
because sorry, yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead, finish the state. You can finish it up.
Because of course, because this, listen, offense, Liam Cohen, but Brent, let's call a spade a spade. This comes down to Trevor Lawrence and helping him out, right? And we've seen Houston do this now with Stroud, and I get it didn't work out with Diggs because he got hurt, Nico got hurt and everything, but the trend now is to give your quarterback as many weapons as possible to elevate their confidence and to help him out, and I think Trevor needs that. I think people have an issue saying, all right, we're just going to run this back again. Because what did it look like last year? Yeah, sure, you have a new play caller, new offense, all this stuff, but I think people can be a little leery saying, well, Trevor didn't look that good last year with what he had. What's going to change this year? So I think, once again, I think T. Higgins is definitely the pipe dream, but people want the wide receiver is the position we can kind of point out and say, hey, if we get so-and-so here, that's going to help out Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, offensive line's a big thing as well, and complementary football with defense is a big thing as well, but people want to point to a wide receiver and say, this guy was brought here to help out Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and by the way, I think it's all valid. I think if they run this thing back, it's like, whoa. But I do think that we've been talking about this. We're set up for it in Jacksonville, that they're contractually kind of running it back in a lot of ways, even if they make one or two moves, right guard, potentially something at center or left tackle, whatever, it's not going to be like a reboot on offense. I mean, it's a lot of guys coming back in many respects. Sean says if the team drafts 2 or 3 wide receivers, who's out? Well, that would be a different story. I would suggest that they don't draft 3 receivers, though, if they haven't moved on from people in March. Like, they'll have that ability. They'll know what they have on the team by the middle of March, and those decisions, that'd be a little silly to go draft 3 receivers, in my opinion. Now, maybe you draft 2. One in the middle rounds, one in the later rounds. Like, that makes some sense, but I don't think everybody's out because of that. Take a time out here on the show, and we'll put a bow on the show when we come back. This just in from the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. I saw this. The Jacksonville Honey Drippers. First alternate identity rebrand in the Jumbo Shrimp era. There are hats out for the Honey Drippers as well. You can get them a couple different times. My birthday weekend, May 24th and 25th, and then right at the end of the summer, in August. Interesting name. There you go. There's the lid. Think this one will be well received, fellas?
Oh, I'm all for the Honey Drippers, man. Absolutely. Let's go.
That's cool. That's good stuff. That'll be a lot of fun this summer for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Always got good gear over there. Check out UNFospreys.com, by the way. Tickets to the River City Rumble tomorrow. JU, UNF. You don't want to miss it. It's tomorrow night at UNF Arena. You can get tickets, UNFospreys.com, to get the latest. We will see you there. One of the great events we have here in the city of Jacksonville. And if you love basketball heading into March, go check it out. They'll put on a show. The Dolphins and the Ospreys. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, actually a doubleheader. Women's game starts at 5. The men's game starts at 8 p.m. When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models, or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway, or shop online at NimnickBuickGMC.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness, and most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC, we are professional grade.
2024 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team.
Ace it in the dying moments!
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season!
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the net for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can save $500 on a Kinetico Premier Softener and get a free Kinect Salt Monitor with purchase. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Kinetico water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Kinetico dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around, and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Can't get enough of this, huh? He really likes us.
Do you think Tony Khan's going to pull money away from Illinois now after seeing this?
Yeah, actually, yes. Maybe make a nice donation to that campaign, that Upside Down campaign.
The fact, it's the ultimate cherry on top that they made him pull the rope.
I know, it is funny.
That pulled down the banner.
It does.
That had your jersey upside down. Man.
I don't know why it's so funny. Like it adds to it, but it definitely adds to it. The fact that he pulled it.
It's the suspense and the fact that they're hyping him up and everything and saying what he meant to the university and here's how much we care about you. We didn't even go through a dry run to see if he's going to be upside down or not.
I think it would have been awesome if he just put his arms up like.
Yeah.
He didn't have like any reaction. Almost just like, is this the way it's supposed to be? And then they're going to flip it when they hang it. Like that's probably all going through his head, right?
Yeah. Mr. Hugo asking what a honey. Do you guys know what a honey dripper is, or is this like? Yeah. Okay.
According to the Jumbo Shrimp website,
what is it?
Well, no,
the honey. Go ahead, Austin.
It's like a slush. Yeah, it's like a slushy thing.
Yes, it's a delicious, according to the website, delicious frozen treat served in a variety of flavors, while often including fresh fruit. It's a summer tradition that goes by different names across many locales in the American South. The Honey Dripper moniker, however, can be traced to Jacksonville and is one of Northeast Florida's many illustrious symbols of home, including in the city's Out East neighborhood. I'm not quite sure what that one is. Out East neighborhood?
Yeah, you don't know. That's the East Side. Yeah, Out East neighborhood.
Just anything anything.
Do your homework. You work in the news department. You should know what the Out East
We've never used
neighborhood is. Well, they should cover it more. I did not know that though.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know if it was just. I just thought it was like a play on thing. I had no idea about that link back to Jacksonville or like a slushy, like it was a common term. I didn't know. So I'm excited about that now, even more so. That's what a honey dripper is. Oh, hey, real quick before we get out of here, you said T. Higgins on your free agent deal. And because I asked, like, okay, like this GM stuff, hey, I'm going to bring in X guy, right? Like, I think this guy can make a difference. If you could pick one free agent, I think that would be a good question for Shad and Tony. Like, where do we really need to add something? The thing about it, Austin, is, yeah, you have T. Higgins. And after T. Higgins, I don't think this is a great free agent class. I think it's a class that comes with a lot of questions. I mean, you've got like an offensive tackle like Ronnie Stanley, who's been very good, but where is he age-wise, right? I mean, I just saw a list. There's a bunch of different lists. But like I don't think they're going to spend big money on wide receiver. Chris Godwin, I know people have linked here. They've already spent on wide receiver. That one you definitely would have to get rid of Kirk and then go say we're going to give to Godwin instead. But to be honest with you,
injuries too.
Yeah, what's the difference, right? Like injuries are a major concern for Godwin, and you don't have the relationship that Kirk has with Trevor.
Yeah. Brent, what about, because I think the Jets are going to let him go. What about Devontae Adams?
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't get excited about that. Like, I really don't. Maybe I should. I just don't. And now I wonder about, like, you're not going to bring in Josh Sweat or anything, right? Like, he's not going to be a third pass rusher for the amount of money you'd bring in. Travarius Ward, corner. Javon Holland, safety. Those guys.
I like that.
That kind of makes some sense.
Justin Reed, safety.
Now, how about this?
Yeah.
How about this? Zach Bond at linebacker.
No thanks. No thanks.
Cass, why, Hamby?
Because look, he's an unbelievable story. This just screams one great year, Cinderella story, go get paid now.
I get that. I get that concern. That would be a concern. But I also think you can ask, like, for what you're paying and everything else, like, back to, could you make a case for that? And again, stylistically, does he fit? I don't know. It would depend what Campanile wants to run.
You have to put him in the right position, like Billy did. So who knows? So
just to give you an idea, I think this class is a little bit weak. Brandon Sheriff was like number 24 on one of the free agent lists I saw, and also like Cam Robinson's like number 11 on the list. Like that's kind of where we're at. And then it's big name wide receiver, but it's also aging player with big names at times outside of a T. Higgins who looks like he's going to stay. I don't think the Jags are going to spend a lot of money. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on this free agent class, quite frankly. I think that's why you really got to occupy those 20 draft picks over the next couple of years. Go ahead, quick. We got 15 seconds.
Yeah, before we go, Debo, Adams, T. Higgins, rank them in terms of what the Jaguars should, which one do you want more? Rank them. Go.
It'd be Higgins, and then number 10 would be any of the other two.
Okay. Hamby?
T and nobody else. Thanks.
You guys are unbelievably sleeping on Debo and Adams. Sounds good. Okay.
All right. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Have a good Wednesday, everybody. 1 o'clock cup date next. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jags Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, you can take 10% off any water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
All right, another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cool.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jaxhighschool912.com.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the